Hey everybody, welcome to the Player's Take, episode 19. I am your host, Justin D. Simone, joined by my co-host, Montrell Rice.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
For those of you who have not listened before, the Player's Take is our weekly podcast where we talk about video games, video game news, and other topics pertaining to video games. We post at 6 a.m. Central Time on Tuesdays on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, your favorite podcast app of choice. So let's not waste any more time. Let's just jump right into it. What have you been playing, man?
I just started back playing Xenoblade Chronicles 2.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that.
I'm trying to finish God of War as well.
Okay.
And I'm still
get through that backlog, huh?
Yeah, I'm still struggling with Tales of Vesperia. I might not finish that this year, honestly. Yeah. I might just put that on the back burner.
What happened? This is like your favorite game.
It's a Tales game, though.
It is a long game.
And a lot of the combat gets repetitive. Until you get in game, you can do a lot of custom combos and stuff. But yeah,
I do remember that. I will say Vesperia. As much as I like that game, I do remember I felt like the combat was pretty generic. I would say for a Tales game. Like I think Symphonia's is honestly like better, even though it's a game before Vesperia. I think it was more.
Honestly, I would say.
I think it was. I felt like it was tighter.
I feel like it was better than Symphonia. Symphonia was good because I think, to me, in my opinion, the nostalgia factor. That was my first Tales game.
I do want to play it again.
Yeah,
it's been a while since I played it.
I have it too. If you want it,
I think I have it too. Okay. They gave it away for free on PS Plus like years ago on PS3.
Okay. Yeah, I have it like the collector's edition and everything. It's definitely a step down from I think it's called Xillia.
Yes.
Cause I love Xillia's
Xillia's the best Tales combat I think they've ever made. Personally, it's tight. It's not. It doesn't have the overcomplicated garbage that Zestiria has. It doesn't have the issues that Grace has had with no mana.
Yeah.
It's very, very Vesperia Symphonia-esque, but adds some more like team attacks and things like that that let you do some cool stuff with combos.
Yep.
But it's not. There's not too much of that, in my opinion.
Yeah, the thing that kills me with Vesperia is coming from Xillia. Is how your controls are so locked in.
Yes. Like,
it's Xillia, I feel like I can run around the field.
Well, that's the thing. Vesperia was the first Tales game that let you get off the 2D plane.
Yeah.
Symphonia didn't do that, and this is why I actually think Symphonia is better, because the 2D plane in that game, while, yes, it was restrictive in a way, at the same time, it kept the game focused.
Yes,
like, you didn't have to... You had to dodge and weave within that 2D plane, so you didn't have any of this like free roaming that you can do in more recent Tales games. Vesperia was the first one that allowed you to do the free roam.
You can definitely tell.
But yeah, it's really clunky because you have to hold a button to do it.
That's why
it's
I did
awkward
not like
as hell.
Yeah.
So I played that game pretty much without using the free roam. I played it like Symphonia, basically.
I do too.
Yeah, I think it plays better that way. But I think Symphonia just does it better. It feels faster. It's more fluid. Lloyd's a much faster attacker than Yuri is.
I can give you that.
Remember. So, and I think the spellcasters in the party you get in Symphonia is just so good out of the gate. What they give you, like Lloyd, Genus, right? I think that's his name. Yeah, Genus. Yeah.
I was about to say Genos.
My brother used to call him. My brother and his friend used to call him Genus the Penis. So that's why I remember that name. He was your spellcaster. He was like your hard spellcaster. Then you had what's her name? His mother.
It's been years since I played.
She was the full-on healer of the party, and then they gave you Kratos, who was like the physical attacker who could cast spells too. So you had like a really balanced party in that game right out of the gate. I don't remember Vesperia feeling that way.
Vesperia has some weird party. They have a healer that can do physical attacks, but a lot of their like casters, to me, are like trash.
They're not good, right? Yeah, it was Rita, right?
Rita was not good.
She's not really that great.
No, you have to build her a certain way. But
Dude, Genus in Symphonia was insane. Yeah. Like, he was a destroyer. Like, he was a wrecking machine. So,
and then they gave you some kind of range caster guy. I forgot his name. The arrow guy who shoots the bow.
I remember the old dude.
Yeah, Raven.
Yeah.
He was okay. I try to play all the characters like I do in the other games.
Yeah.
And some of them control okay and some of them don't. But I don't know. But yeah, and then that's all I'm playing. What about you?
So I was away for a few days, so I really didn't get to play much this weekend. However, I did get back into Grim Dawn. I got to level 100 with my main character in that. So
okay.
I'm planning on. I've gotten through. I'm almost through the main game on Ultimate, and I'm going to do the 2 expansions, and then I might move on to an alt or do some farming. I'm not really sure. But making some progress with that, so I'm having a lot of fun with that. My character is getting markedly better as I play more, which is fun. And then I finished Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Finally, it is over. I think now that you've gotten back into this game, I was going to give some thoughts on this game, but I think now that you're back into it, I'm going to wait until you're done, and then we'll kind of talk about it.
Yeah, I should be done in 2 weeks.
we might make that a topic of the show in a couple weeks or something like that, because there's a lot I want to talk about with this game. It's interesting. To me, I felt weird about it. Like, I really liked the game. I think it was interesting how straightforward it was at the end, but we'll get into that more, I guess, when you finish it up. So,
all right.
So that's pretty much it for what I'm playing. So let's just jump into the news. First piece of news was some news about the 3DS. So 3DS is not an officially dead console for Nintendo. However, they had a financial call for investors a couple weeks ago. It's been a while since we recorded, by the way, so some of these stories may be a little dated.
Yeah.
But they had a financial call with investors, and they did not mention a new game for 3DS for this year at all. So it seems like they're kind of done with it. Makes sense.
Yeah, we had a good run.
Yes. I mean, how do you feel about 3DS?
I think it's the PS3 or the PS2 of handhelds.
You think so?
Yeah, it has a very good library.
It's interesting. I think the 3DS is one of Nintendo's weaker handhelds, but funny enough, that's really not saying a lot, because Nintendo's handhelds are just good.
Yeah.
It's still a fantastic device. Like, I think it's a great device. It still has a great library of games. I just think compared to the
old DS games,
I think compared to the backwards compatibility with DS. But I think when you compare it to DS, Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color, and then Switch, it's just not. It's not on that level on any of those.
I mean, Game Boy Advance, in my opinion, probably has the best handheld library to date.
I love that device so much.
I mean,
dude.
The only one that can probably rival it is PSP as far as like handheld like games. Because the PSP had a lot of sleeper hits on it.
Yeah, I could see that. So, I think we may get some more announcements for 3DS, but I wouldn't really expect much going forward.
Yeah, I mean, the Switch kind of took its place in my opinion.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, there's rumors we're getting a handheld-only version of the Switch and things like that. And if that happens, I mean, 3DS is kind of done anyway. So,
that would be cool, a handheld-only version. Get a lot more people to Switch.
Yeah. It's been 7 years since this thing came out, so sounds about right. I mean, the DS was about a similar trajectory. I think it was 8 years, 2004 to 2012.
Wow.
Or so, yeah. So,
man, I was still playing my Game Boy Advance. I didn't even touch a 3D. I didn't touch a DS until the 3DS came out.
Really?
I never played the DS.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow, you missed a lot.
Yeah,
dude.
I was still playing.
The DS, you want to talk about a library. That when you said PS2 of handhelds, I was thinking of the DS.
You thinking of the DS? Okay.
Dude, the DS is...
I see a lot of stuff on the DS, man. I think I might just go back and buy a lot of that stuff.
Elite Beat Agents.
Yeah.
That game was so good. That game was so good, man. Oh, man. No,
I see so many memes of that video game.
The DS is... man, something that was a special device. That was a really special device. Okay, moving on. So,
oh my freaking god!
So Square Enix continues to talk about Kingdom Hearts 3.
Why do they like their stock dropping?
I think since the last episode, Critical Mode has come out.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
And people have been playing it, and it seems like it is markedly harder than the main, Proud Mode.
Yes. But not
which is
harder.
good and bad.
Yeah, it's not harder in a good sense, though.
Yeah, it's just punishing.
Yeah.
But they also mentioned a DLC is coming this year called Remind. In the normal Kingdom Hearts way, capital MIND. Like weird naming schemes or whatever. They didn't give a launch date for this DLC, but they mentioned this is probably going to be the big DLC that adds story scenes and bosses and things like that. So, I don't really care. This is going to be their final mix probably for this game.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm not touching critical mode. If this comes out, whenever it comes out,
You play critical mode then?
I'll play critical mode then. Hopefully they'll balance a lot of the... Because from what I'm seeing, even like we said last week, I think we talked about it, one of like the top streamers for Kingdom Hearts, Bloody Biscuits, and I watched his streams.
Yeah.
It just seems like the enemies aren't designed for critical mode.
Yeah.
It seems like the game isn't designed for critical mode at all. Even though you can turn off the attractions and everything of that nature.
Which I found hilarious.
Yeah,
that you can do that. Isn't that such a like admission that it's an annoying feature?
Yeah,
but like it's straight up just an admission that the feature is annoying and gets in the way.
Yeah, but the thing is, right, the game is designed around those attractions, and it definitely shows when you play critical mode and you have 10 sniper Heartless sniping you off the screen and you're like, how am I supposed to handle all this? I don't have enough AoE moves.
You just do attractions.
Yeah, you just do attractions.
That's how you're supposed to handle it.
Yeah, so, I mean, we'll see.
So you're not excited about it?
I mean, I'm a little excited about it, but I don't think they're going to do...
They're not going to fix this game. They're not going to fix the game's problem.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to do from Kingdom Hearts 2 to Kingdom Hearts Final Mix 2. Yeah. Like, that was a significant jump, in my opinion, when Kingdom Hearts 2, everyone trashed that game, then Kingdom Hearts 2.5 came out, or Final Mix came out, and everyone was like, holy crap, this game is, like, really good.
Yeah.
So,
there's too many issues, man, for them to fix.
Yeah, I just don't see it. I don't see them adding... If they add bosses, it's going to be secret bosses. Yeah. Like, they're not going to add, like, how we want them to add bosses to it. Like, we're not going to fight any Disney characters. We're still going to fight...
They're not going to fix Frozen. Yeah. They may fix some plot holes later in the game.
Exactly,
but I don't expect them to fix the major issues, which the Disney worlds are the major issues, and I just don't think that DLC is going to touch any of that stuff. Yep. So
we may get to go inside that castle, because that castle has a layout.
Maybe.
But
does that fix the level, though? Probably not.
No. They probably can redesign that level because they got the assets.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it was
revealed. You think
they
take things out?
I think they would switch around with the labyrinth.
Dude, adding that castle on top of what's in that level, I think would make it worse.
No,
I think the level would be too long.
I think what they're going to do is they're going to switch out the labyrinth and put that actually inside the castle. Because if you look at the labyrinth, that was supposed to be the castle, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah,
I think they're going to take. Yeah, I think they're going to take the whole. What's her name? Larkscene.
Yeah,
Larkscene. They're probably going to redirect that scene a little bit, and probably have you go up the mountain to the castle, fight in the castle, and then a lot of other stuff happen.
I mean, the thing is, they're not going to fix the story though. Like they're not going to they're not going to make you fight Elsa.
Yeah,
like,
the story shit.
Like
so
that. So
yeah,
I don't know. I will probably watch this whenever it comes out. I will see what scenes they have, but I doubt I play this.
Okay.
I don't really care that much.
That's definitely a fair assumption.
Yeah. All right, next story. This one, so interesting. This one kind of came out last week, and then there was kind of a follow-up that happened today. So Riot Games employees were organizing a walkout because Riot's workplace is kind of toxic.
Kind of.
There's a lot of reports of sexist culture within Riot. Also, there's kind of some issues with the way they handle arbitration with employees.
Oh my
so
God.
If employees have issues and kind of go at Riot legally, they're...
they legally can't, actually.
They try to block them using arbitration. And this is a thing that... it's kind of hit or miss depending on the company you work for, whether they can use arbitration against employees or not.
Yep.
Riot did say they're planning on getting rid of that eventually, but not in the immediate future. So for right now, this is still a problem. The thing that the walkout actually happened today. I think about 150 employees walked out of Riot
That's
in
correct.
protest, and this is kind of. I think it was more centered around the kind of sexist culture at Riot more than the arbitration thing.
Some people got accused of sexual assault and stuff like that.
Yes, and this happened months ago. And Riot did nothing about it at the time.
I think it was about the CEOs, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was. And they didn't do much about it. They just they released a statement saying they were going to fix things, and they released an internal statement saying they were going to fix things. And when this walkout got reported, they released an internal email basically saying we're like this, reiterating the same thing, that we're going to continue to do better. We're trying to improve things, and it's just when you say it so many times, eventually people aren't going to believe you anymore. It's like you really actually do need to enact change And some of the things that have come out about the workplace environment in this company is just kind of gross. It's interesting because I have heard of one particular female employee at Riot say she has never really run into that at Riot, but that's one anecdote.
One anecdote.
It's one anecdote versus an entire company. So
everyone has different perspectives on things like that. So I try not to.
Indeed,
I try not to like listen to. Well, I mean,
her point of view is valid.
Her point of view is valid, but in the same sense, I can't say. If a black employee at our company is like, hey, I experienced some racism, and I'm like, well, I don't experience racism. I can't. To me, that's like invalidating what they experience because they may work in a totally different department than what I work in or whatever, you know. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we should take these things case by case.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, overall, it seems that there's a lot more reported sexism at this company than not, what the other person's perspective kind of was. So I don't know. This company is. It's disappointing to see this in a company of this size and like success level.
Yeah, man.
I feel like they should be more committed to really stamping this out. This kind of culture.
Especially since they're trying to be like the NFL of video games. Yeah. Like they expressed that like problem, 2 or 3 years ago.
The NFL is not really great in that sense either, right? So if they're using that as a model for their own success, I mean, it's not the greatest place to draw your inspiration from.
This is true. Yeah.
Women in the NFL largely, there have been strides in the NFL in recent years with female coaches and referees. Yeah. But for the most part, women's involvement in the NFL is very little. So Riot, I mean, I'm not saying Riot's like taking that and being like, oh, we shouldn't let women, be a part of League of Legends or the esports. That's definitely not the case, but internally, just I don't know, some of the things that have come out about them, like the way it's kind of like a real bro mentality, and just the kind of toxic nature of they kind of refer to gamers in like a really like elite gamers and like core gamers and all that stuff. They kind of refer to gamers in a really gross way too.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the stuff that they do, it's hard to say because a lot of the streamers and stuff like that, ask for different points of view on like patches and things of that nature. So I'm kind of glad they don't listen to streamers; they listen to the community about that, and things of that nature. Because that's the same thing that happened with PUBG, where they listen to streamers all the time instead of the community. In my opinion, but.
Well, didn't you say you had some interesting thoughts too about some of their character designs, right, in this game?
Oh yeah,
early on, how that's kind of changed over the years.
That's definitely changed, and I'm glad they're doing that. And like you can tell from the characters that they design. When they redesign the character, they also redesign the splash art for that character. So if you don't know what splash art is, it's like maybe like some 2D drawing of the character that
it's like a still image of representing the character, right? Yeah, and I remember early on, because I used to play League back when it first came out, I do remember some female characters were a little racy in their designs.
Exactly, right? And they definitely cleaned it up a lot. Yeah. Especially with their female characters. So I definitely appreciate that from them. But I feel like they have a long way to go. Yeah. As far as like diversity and getting female gamers in particular into this game, because they have to change their culture. It starts with the company, and then that will change the culture within the community as well. Whereas Overwatch already has this shit on the wrap. Like they have so many diverse gamers in there, especially when it comes to women. Yeah. In Apex Legends, in my opinion, they have that already on wrap. And I think League of Legends is still stuck in that early 2000s phase where it was just like, dude bros like my old self playing this game, But now that culture's changed, because I know a lot of women who do play League of Legends, but they'll probably never let you know in the chat or anything like that.
There's no reason to.
Yeah, there's no reason to.
You're gonna get targeted if you do that.
Exactly.
It's an unfortunate reality of online gaming,
which we'll probably get to later on in this podcast.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I'm glad the employees did this. Mm-hmm. Like maybe this will stir up the news.
I agree. It was disappointing of Riot to come out immediately last week too and send out an internal email trying to like stem the tide and try to discourage people from doing this. It's like, look, your employees, you need to take care of your employees when you're a company. Like, you cannot treat them the way like BioWare has and the way other game companies have where they're just expendable, because the reality is they're not.
Yeah, I'm
if
glad
they're quality,
all this is
dude,
coming out.
you can't replace these people. Like, you can try to, good luck, but BioWare has probably clearly seen, and they've suffered for it. Like,
yeah.
It's just, dude, the things that have happened with Anthem recently, it's just the game's dead. The game's dead after 7 years.
Yeah, that game is wow.
After 7 years of development, the game's dead because they just don't seem to know how to run the studio. So it's like, you can't. Riot obviously is a different case. They're a huge juggernaut, and they're a well-oiled machine with League of Legends, but you can't treat your employees. That might not stay that way if you treat your employees poorly and they decide to leave. You know, these people are the people that have made the game what it is. You know,
exactly.
You can't just throw them to the wayside and be like, "Oh, we'll be fine." Like,
well, the thing is, right? League of Legends was on top as far as streaming and everything like that.
Yeah.
Then Fortnite came out.
And that's changed, right?
And they changed their whole outlook. They went away from this trying to be the NFL of video games, because all they had before, I remember this. Bluntly, a lot of streamers, a lot of YouTube people, a lot of community leaders and stuff like that, they were mad that League of Legends was just focused on the LCS, which is their version of like the NFL, the league, the official league. And they, for the last 2 years, before this year actually, for the last 2 years, they were just off all that. They were just pushing, esports.
Yeah,
and then people were like, "Hey, but we actually made your community. We actually made your game. We made the memes and everything like that. What about us?" And then when Fortnite came out, they started losing stream numbers very fast, and they started changing stuff. That's why you saw this drastic change in how damage was working, because the game flow was very boring and everything like that nature.
Well, I think the thing is with League and Dota, they're not fun to watch in the way that Fortnite and PUBG and battle royales are.
Yeah,
they're fun to watch in the official capacity when you're talking about like official tournaments and games that really have like pressure to them, like the international for Dota. That's the only Dota I watch. I don't really watch Dota otherwise, because Dota's not fun to watch without the stakes for me. When there's no stakes tied to the game, you're just playing randos, playing public games. Those aren't fun to watch necessarily to me. I just don't think these games are conducive to that. Like, watching an NFL preseason game is not fun because there's no stakes to it, right? I think it's the same thing for League and Dota and MOBAs in general. Whereas with Fortnite and PUBG, those games don't have that same competitive appeal. In my opinion, they don't. And they're just kind of fun to watch because there's a lot of moments of like high skill moments that happen a lot.
Yep.
Whereas in League, that happens a lot less. I feel like, even when you're playing watching somebody highly skilled, it's not possible for them to do that every single game, right?
And that was the issue. That was the issue for the last 2 years. A lot of people were saying exactly what you were saying.
Yeah,
they're like, you made the game way too slow. Like when. Back in the day when Faker, which was kind of like the Michael Jordan of League of Legends, he did this insane move with Zed. Like, it was just, you can play different characters and win the game. And he just did this insane move, and it was a very exciting moment. We don't get those exciting moments anymore because you guys slowed the game down so much.
Yeah, whereas with Fortnite, dude, like watching Ninja or some of the other streamers play that game, like they're having multiple high-level moments within one game, and they're crazy things that they're doing, like pulling off moves that are nuts. Like, dude, I saw, when I used to watch Dr. Disrespect, he plays with Crafty a lot, who was a Fortnite streamer. I think he plays Fortnite and Apex now, but I remember this one time they were just effing around one day. They had won like 8 games or whatever over the course of a day, and they were in the final like 4 of a game. It was like 2v2, them versus another team.
Yeah,
and like, how you can rocket ride in that game? I remember like Crafty shoots a rocket, Doc jumps on it, scope snipes some dude in the head on the rocket, and they win the game. It's like crazy shit like that happens like every game, with some of these streamers, the high skill ones. So that's kind of the difference. Like League, I don't think that kind of jaw-dropping stuff happens as often.
It used to happen as often, and then they changed the way the game works. But now they're trying to get it back to like that. Yeah. But I think this is going to hurt them with this walkout, because I think a lot of people are more conscious of.
Yeah, it's a bad look, man.
Yeah.
For a company like, I don't like League as it is, and I don't like seeing Riot. I don't really want to support Riot as a company.
Yeah,
given all this stuff. So it's like, I mean, I like Dota anyway, so they're just kind of giving me a reason to never come back. Really. Like if I play, it's going to be wholly free to play. You know, like that'll be the only way I play. All right, moving on. So this story has kind of played out since in the entire week since our last episode. So the Sonic the Hedgehog movie first trailer came out, and boy, oh boy, did the internet react.
The internet reacts poorly to anything Sonic, but
if you haven't seen the trailer, I will give a short description of Sonic. So the main reaction was to Sonic's character model in the movie. He basically looks like a man who's wearing a Sonic costume, and it's pretty horrifying. Yeah, like he's wearing his feet are really small. They're like human-sized feet. He's wearing just red sneakers that are human-sized. So he doesn't have the exaggerated foot size that Sonic normally has.
Yep.
His legs are also just human thickness. You know, he doesn't have those short or those really thin, long legs that Sonic usually has.
Yep.
Same with the arms. Just look like man arms. He's not wearing gloves. He has like these really creepy white furry hands.
I didn't even notice
They're
that.
creeper as fuck. And then his face is, the eyes are separated, which Sonic usually is not. They're usually together.
Yeah.
And they're separated eyes that are small and kind of beady a little bit. And his mouth is got human teeth in it. And there was a lot of memes coming out about this. There was a lot of hate. This kind of blew up, and then there was a lot of negative feedback. And then the studio came out and said that they are planning on changing the model before the movie comes out,
which is a good thing.
And that itself created a lot of controversy around it as well. And now there's controversy around that controversy. This whole story has kind of morphed over the course of a week really quickly. And I kind of want to just talk about, obviously, this is a video game show. We're talking about a movie. This is a video game IP, though, so I think it's pretty relevant to our conversation. So, what were your thoughts overall, I guess, at the beginning, right? Just the trailer.
Just the trailer?
Did you think Sonic looked horrifying?
I didn't think he looked horrifying, but it definitely could have been done better.
Yeah, I didn't have the visceral reaction the internet had. I thought it looked bad. I wasn't like, this thing's going to give me nightmares level.
Yeah,
crazy.
it wasn't.
I think people were overreacting.
They were definitely overreacting.
What do you feel about them deciding to change the model, though?
I think that's...
Given all that entails, because it sounds like they're going to have to put their animators through some crunch in order to get this done before the movie gets out, which is not great.
Yeah, that's not great at all.
And just the nature of... This is like the Mass Effect 3 ending thing, where there was a lot of similar controversy around that, of people feeling like having your art influenced in this way is kind of a bad precedent to set. And
so
what do you feel about that?
Okay, so there's a lot of stuff you just threw at me, but I have been reading
one at a time, Montrell.
I have been reading this, a lot of the people defending this character model and things of that nature. So first things first, I think there's a key difference in video games. Like, if we're talking about art, we have to separate the art. Like, we just can't say everything is the same. Like, unfortunately, we can't.
Context matters.
Yeah, context does matter. Yeah. So, in this instance, people were trying to compare this to, like, the Were-Hedgehog and, like, Sonic Unleashed and things of that nature. And I just don't think that's a fair comparison. The reason why I don't think that's a fair comparison is because it's not from the creators themselves. Like, this obviously was like, hey, Sega, can we borrow this IP to make this character? And they're like, okay. And that happened. I don't think they went through the right focus groups for this. I don't think they... I honestly don't think they did anything. I think they just released this and they're like, people are going to love this. And I feel like it's for the consumer, for consumer rights, honestly. This was a hit because if we don't like something... I mean, just think about all the other movies.
We have the ability to criticize it.
Yeah, we have the ability to criticize. Think of all, like, remember Dr. Doom, guys? Like, remember him in Fantastic Four, how terrible that character looked?
Yeah.
Like, we have the right to criticize these movies. I don't feel like criticizing these movies are... I don't know. It's just so weird how people defend big companies.
Well, okay, there's a lot of layers to this situation for me.
And
One,
just
let me finish.
The second point is, comparing it to video games, so people are like, well, I thought video games were art. Were you saying about the Sekiro last time?
Yeah, I'm going to get to that.
Context matters, bro. Like,
it's a different conversation.
It's a totally different conversation. I don't think that was a fair conversation to bring it up in. It was a false equivalency, and I hate when people do those type of arguments. Mm-hmm. Like, this was an IP brought by a studio, and they botched it. Just imagine if Pokemon did that with their IP, and the studio botched it. Yep. Nintendo would be on the same wave. Like, okay, listen, guys, you gotta change this. I think this is a fair assumption. Now, granted, the internet was overreacting, but the internet also did provide a lot of...
there were a lot of redesigns that looked fine. Yeah, that just changed the eyes, and it looked perfectly fine. Even with the creepy human teeth and everything else, it looked fine.
Yeah, and they did complete redesigns, and they gave suggestions. They offered help.
There was some constructive feedback that came from this.
Exactly. Yeah. It wasn't just total hate. Like I feel like this can't be compared to like the Mass Effect ending, in my opinion, because that was from BioWare.
Context.
Yeah, that was from BioWare. We can't tell BioWare how to write their own story. Yeah. But it's not like BioWare gave the IP to someone else and someone else is writing the story for them. Like, we can criticize that because this is not your story, BioWare. This is someone else's story that you thought you trusted, and it didn't come out right. I don't know. It's a lot of layers, like you said. I'll let you go.
Yeah, so... let me start at the beginning, right? So the character looks bad. Yes. I think the initial design definitely looked bad. From a purely selfish perspective, I kind of wish they would keep it, because I think this movie would be hilarious level bad. Like, it was worth seeing to me with the initial trailer and everything, because I thought it was going to be the funny bad, like The Room or Mario Brothers movie level bad. That's how. And now with them redesigning it, I'm probably not going to see the movie now, because it's just going to be a boring movie, I think. Like, I think it's just, it's not going to be funny. I don't think it's going to be interesting. Like, I just don't think it's going to be a good movie.
They're just changing the character design.
Yes, and the character design brought up so many memes just out of a trailer. Imagine the whole movie, Montrell. Imagine the whole movie. What we could have gotten out of that.
I'm still going to see it.
I may still see it, too. I don't know. I just, it's a lot less appealing to me that they're going to change the design. Even if it looks better, I don't think it's going to look better. Like, I don't think the story of the movie is going to be good, so I don't think the character design is going to save that, So I'd rather we just get a horrifically bad movie that's just funny. Okay. That's, so from that perspective, purely selfish. On the other parts of this, them choosing to redesign the character, I think comparing this to Mass Effect or Sekiro is disingenuous, because ultimately in all three cases, it is the creator's decision to change it or not change it. Yes. That has nothing to do with us. We can yell, scream, complain, criticize, all we want. If the creators decide to do nothing, there's nothing. We're not putting them at gunpoint and being like, you change this fucking character right now, or I'm going to end your whole studio. No, that's not what's happening. We complained. The negativity was overwhelming enough where they felt like they needed to make a change, and you know what? Good on them for doing that. If they are trying to really appeal to the demographic of Sonic game fans, then they should change it. Yeah. It's like a lot of people have been bringing up that this is supposed to be a kids movie. Why are you making a Sonic kids movie? Just make something else. Why are you taking Sonic and you decided you want to make a kids movie out of that? Why did you even pick Sonic then? You're trying to put your hand in two different cookie jars. You're trying to make a kids movie and then you're trying to take advantage of the video game fans? That's bullshit. Yeah. That's Hollywood bullshit right there. And the level of arrogance within these companies sometimes, where they buy the license to an IP and then they decide that they know better about how that IP should look visually, is ridiculous. Why do they think that their design of Sonic is better than 25 years of Sonic designs? What are you guys talking about? Like, from what I understand, Sega hated this design, didn't like it, and continued to say, they told Paramount a bunch of times, like, we don't like this design, but they have no control, right? Wow, they have no control of the movie. So Paramount was like, whatever, it's our movie, we're doing what we want with it. And
that's what I'm talking about. So why do people defend these big corporations like that? Like,
I don't think they're defending the corporations. I think a lot of the argument has really been centered around the change happening and that it sets a bad precedent for creators. Like, I saw Cory Barlog come out and say he was disappointed in it, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, again, it comes down to the idea that it's still the creator's choice. If they didn't want to change it, they didn't have to change it.
They're not in my opinion, they're not the original creators.
No, they're not. And comparing this to Mass Effect is disingenuous because BioWare were the original creators and they set an expectation that they did not meet with their game.
Exactly.
That's a completely different situation, to me. That was one thing. And the Sekiro one is even more annoying because, again, Sekiro is not making a change. They are the ones deciding not to change anything despite all this criticism. And yes, people saying, oh, it's their creative vision, blah, blah, blah. It is their creative vision. If they decide they don't want to make an easy mode in Sekiro, they can do that. If the Sonic movie decided they don't want to change the character design of this character, they can do that.
It's their choice because that's what they're creating.
So anybody demanding they make a change, from my perspective, that's where I'm like, you can say it, but they don't have to listen to you,
In my opinion, the internet was giving itself a suggestion.
Yes.
Like, I didn't see people like, oh, man, like, you gotta change this. I saw people like, why did you do this? Like,
why did you do it this way?
Yeah, why did you do it this way? And people honestly wanted to know why they designed Sonic. How did Sonic... It's like they didn't have, like you said, like both me and you said, they didn't have a focus group. Because I feel like if they had got honest Sonic fans or honest people who knew about Sonic...
Video game fans.
Yeah, video game fans in there, and they're like, okay, here's our design of Sonic. What you guys think? People are like, wait, that's Sonic? That's trash. Like, I feel like the Pokemon movie that's coming out, I feel like they had a focus group of Pokemon people who looked at these Pokemon and were like, yes, we like that. No, we don't like that.
And some of them look creepy, but it's right. The situations that it looks creepy, like Mr. Mime, he looks creepy, but he should.
Yeah, because he's a creepy
Mr. Mime's a creepy Pokemon, dude. Like... So, for me, it's like, when you look at Hollywood and the way they do these movies, it's like, there's a history with this. They do this all the time with movies. Like think about it. You have the Mario Brothers movie, like Assassin's Creed, and then you go to comic book movies, like the ones in the early 2000s. They didn't even resemble their comic book counterparts. Like remember the original X-Men movies, like the first trilogy. God. They didn't wear the goofy costumes and none of that stuff. Like we
wanted that.
Yeah, they thought the drab black costumes were going to work, and then you look at the MCU and it's all the goofy costumes and traditional comic book looks, and look where that is. That shit is like, it's just Hollywood didn't understand that there were a lot of people that wanted that stuff, and I think this is that traditional Hollywood thinking that Sonic in his original form is not going to look right in a real world environment. But why does he need to look right?
Exactly.
He's a cartoony, super fast hedgehog that can talk.
I think,
like, I don't. Why does he need to look realistic? I don't get that.
And the thing that irritates me about this, right, is we already have a movie that proved this.
Yeah,
that it can do it, and it's not a comic book movie; it's a cartoon movie. And you know what it is? It's called Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Yeah,
we have cartoon characters in a real life setting, having real life issues.
Yeah.
With a real life detective. And that movie did really well. Like, everyone saw that movie that I know about. They love that movie. And for people not to recognize that, and for Hollywood itself not to recognize that, and it took all the way to Iron Man for people to realize, like, oh, yeah, maybe we should do the goofy costumes now. Yeah, dude, maybe you should, because we like that crap. Like, we like it.
Well, they also take the wrong things out, right? The MCU could have early on decided to reboot itself, because a lot of the early MCU movies were not well received, right?
Yeah.
Iron Man was probably the only exception. Iron Man 2, hated.
Yeah.
Like, just completely hated. Everybody hated that movie. Iron Man 3, everybody hated that movie. Thor 1, people didn't like that movie. Captain America was really lukewarm. The Hulk, people didn't like that movie. Yes. Like, everything up to the first Avengers, most people did not really like.
Yeah.
And they could have easily rebooted that, but you know what? They stuck to their guns until the movies became good. They didn't take out of the lukewarm reception that people don't like these character designs. They probably realized our movies weren't that great and we needed to improve their quality,
and
right?
That's why I think, honestly, I mean, this leads to a whole bunch of other stuff. We can talk about how Warner Brothers still didn't catch that flair. They still, in my opinion, they still don't know what that flair is. Now they're starting to catch up to it.
You talking about with the DC?
Yeah, with the DC
universe?
EU. Yeah. Now we got like Wonder Woman. We got Aquaman, you got Shazam.
Shazam's a perfect example.
Those 3 movies are really good.
Yeah, like, and they're goofy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then you have movies like, then you have a spin like what Christopher Nolan did with Dark Knight, right? Or the Dark Knight trilogy.
Yeah.
Like, Batman was still in his goofy ass costume, but saving Gotham. Like,
but it's a really dark series of movies
because that character himself is very dark.
Batman fits that mold really well.
Exactly.
I don't think every comic book character fits that mold, right?
Exactly.
Like X-Men is goofy as fuck. Are you kidding me? Like you've got Cyclops in this fucking yellow, like Wolverine in this yellow fucking uniform.
It does have serious moments, but I think they took it too seriously.
No, that's the thing. Is like I think a lot of people get frustrated with the MCU and how quippy it is and how funny it always tries to be. And yes, sometimes they go a little too far with that. However, there's plenty of serious moments. There's plenty of serious character development. Yeah. We saw that with Avengers Endgame this past year, right? And then Infinity War last year, even more so. It's like, you can be funny and goofy and comic booky, but still be serious. And still have a serious story that has real character development in it. You know, and I think that's what Warner Brothers didn't get for a while. I think they wanted to just kind of continue that Nolan track where it was really gritty and like realistic, and it just doesn't work for some of these characters. Like Superman, you can't put him in a realistic setting.
He's like a bright sunlight. Like you can't. Yeah. Like, he's like, when people look at Superman, I'm looking at like sunshine.
He's a Boy Scout.
Exactly.
That's his character. He's a Boy Scout. So if you're trying to make him anything other than that, you're doing it wrong. You know, it's like.
And even in the cartoons, they went with that route. Like, you know, Superman can turn on any time. Yeah. But they did it in a way where it was like, it's still a kid's show, bro. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, this is still Superman. Whereas with the Batman cartoons, they were really dark, but they had to kind of tune it for a kid's show because it kind of went that way. But it was still really dark. Like, in my opinion, my favorite Batman was Batman Beyond. But that's a whole different one. But yeah, like, just getting back to the Sonic, like, I feel like Sonic has had this issue, even in video games, where it took fans, a fan-made studio, to come to Sega, like, listen, Sega, this is how we want Sonic. This is how we want it. And Sega was like, all right, you guys can do it. We give you that permission. And the game sold buttloads of money.
You're talking about Sonic Mania, right?
Sonic Mania, yeah. And people, I think they need to do the same thing with, like, the Sonic Adventure series, because people love Sonic Adventure, and they just refuse to go back to that adventure style. Yeah. And I feel like it's going to happen with the movies too. People need to recognize that the love that people have for these IPs is unimaginable. Like, the reason why the Pikachu detective works so well, people are like, well, Pikachu was never detective. Well, there was a video game based off of that.
Yeah, it came out last year.
Yeah, it came out last year called Pikachu Detective
Pikachu.
Detective Pikachu, yeah. And people were like, oh, this is really cool. Like, I like this. And I never played the game, but I've heard of it. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to go see the movie and probably play the video game off of it.
Dude, and the thing is with the Detective Pikachu movie too, it's like the you get Pikachu and you don't really change Pikachu.
Yes.
If you change Pikachu, you're ruined. You're fucking it up.
Yeah.
Right. Like, you don't change Pikachu. Pikachu's for 20 years has been just it's a monstrous character design. It's one of the most iconic character designs like ever made in media.
Yeah.
Like,
and they established that this is not this is not Ash's Pikachu.
So how do you change? How do you change it? You establish that it's not Ash's Pikachu, and then you make it voiced by somebody like Ryan Reynolds, who, you know, Deadpool, right? Like, who can perceivably change the character, but it's still Pikachu.
Exactly.
You know, it's still a Pikachu, right? You can tell that. And it seems like they're going with that. They're playing both sides of that coin, right? With the trailers in the movie, like, you're seeing that he's like this hardened, like, he doesn't seem like he seems kind of jaded a little bit as a Pikachu, but then you have those like funny moments where that like he's trying to see if other people can understand Pikachu, and that girl's like, "Ah, Pika Pika," yeah. You know, it's like playing off the cuteness, right, of Pikachu. Pikachu's still cute,
exactly.
Even if he's this jaded like guy. You know, it's like he's still cute though, because the character just looks cute.
It's like, what would your animals think if you can talk to them? You
exactly.
Know?
That's
like,
kind of,
you're meowing at me, right? But you're probably like, "Yo,
it's
I'm
like
hungry."
Toy Story almost, right?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Yeah. So I think they just kind of lost. It's obvious that this was made by people who don't play video games, right? Like, or don't understand video games.
They don't understand the people that grew up. Whereas people like the Pikachu movie, Nintendo I feel like the people that approached him, they were fans of Pokemon, and they understand like, hey, we can target both demographics, like young and old, because we know Pokemon's like almost a 30-year-old.
Pokemon's a perfect IP for it. It appeals to young and old.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. So they made a storyline revolving around that. I don't think the people who made this movie understand that Sonic is just as old as Mario Brothers. Probably like a little bit younger, but like 2 years younger or whatever. But its fans grew up with it.
Yeah.
And the movie is like, oh, we can just make this, fast. He got to go fast, so we're just going to make a Fast and Furious version of... No, man. Like... And I was so disappointed when I saw, like, the producers of Fast and Furious. I'm like,
man.
No. Yeah. And then the Gangster's Paradise playing over the... I'm like, that has nothing to do with Sonic. It's just, like, the whole trailer itself. Like, besides... I think Dr. Robotnik as Jim Carrey is going to be really cool.
Yeah?
I think so.
I hope so. There's parts of it where I'm like, man, Jim Carrey's just being Jim Carrey, but...
Because it fits... Jim Carrey is almost...
But he kind of... Yeah, he fits Robotnik.
He fits Robotnik. And if you know Robotnik, he's actually like... His character bio, Sega put that in there. He's a huge feminist. Like, he believes in women's rights and shit like that. Oh, yeah. So, like, it's going to be funny if they include that in the movie, how, like, even though he's like a, an egotistical doctor, he's like, yo, I believe in women's rights too, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you caught a little bit of that in the trailer. It was one part where he told, like, some dudes to shut up or whatever, something like that. But it was. I think they're going to go that route with it. But I don't know. We'll see. But I don't feel like redesigning the character is impactful to artist integrity. I feel like it's up to the artists themselves if they want to change it.
They still have the choice. No matter how much criticism they get, they always have the choice. And I think that's the reality that...
I just hate disingenuous arguments.
No, and it frustrates me when people are like, dude, I kept seeing this with Game of Thrones and everything, like where all the negativity came out last week and this week, and there's so many people out there who are like, if you don't have anything positive to say, then don't say anything at all. It's
that's
like,
the dumbest
it's such a
quote ever.
I'm sorry, but look, you can like whatever you want to like, but I have just as much right to dislike whatever I want to dislike, you know. And if I decide to vocalize that dislike in a respectful way, obviously, like I'm not condoning being rude to the creators or calling people names or being an asshole, but at the same time, like, I get to be critical. You know? If I think it could have been done better, and I can respectfully present that, there's nothing wrong with that. So, trying to tell people not to be critical is just like you're kind of accepting mediocrity, Like why should we accept something that we don't think is good?
And I think that leads to a whole another discussion about we can talk about it later in the podcast in the future, but like how gamers themselves and people of media just accept everything that's given to them. And it's not like I'm trying to like rise up for the revolution. I'm just like, back in the day we used to give honest criticism about stuff and people used to change stuff or not change it based off what we said. But now it's just like, because they're the creators and they work hard, we can't say nothing about it. And I'm like, I understand that, but in the same sense, you can work 7 years on the project and it comes out trash. Like Anthem.
Like, right. They worked for 7 years on that game. Are you honestly going to sit here and tell me that game is free from criticism because they worked hard on it for 7 years? Like, I'm sorry. You've got your head in the clouds.
Yeah.
Like, the game's not good. Straight up. It's just not good. Like, there's things we like about it. Yes.
And this character design is not good.
Yeah. So. And dude, like, I get really frustrated with that. I've talked about this before with hype culture, right? Like, where a game comes out and you hype it up and you give it this just effusive praise that is just over the top. Like Breath of the Wild is a good example.
Yep.
I'm gonna keep bringing this up because
Nintendo
saw all that praise and they're like, oh, okay, people really like this, so we're gonna make the next game even more like this, right? But then a year later, everyone kind of calms down. Their emotions have calmed down. They play through it again and they're like, oh, this wasn't as good as I thought it was. Because their emotions have kind of calmed down. And they're they're approaching it more rationally. And then you're like, then you start criticizing it. Well, Nintendo doesn't care anymore. Like, they're not paying attention to criticism anymore. Like, when the game came out, they were, but not anymore. So you're going to get a game that maybe you don't like now because you were just over the top. Like, that's my point. Like, I don't know. It's like, I feel like I'm almost like a buzzkill sometimes with this stuff because I just approach everything so critically. Like, I don't get super hyped about things most of the time, like, unless they really, really are really good.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. And I think
we both do. Like, we both approach stuff with,
it's just,
like...
I want better. You know? I want us to always get better, right? I don't want things to go backwards.
Yeah.
You know? I don't want Mass Effect 3 to happen.
Again.
You know? Yeah, I don't want that to happen again, you know? It's like, I shouldn't set that as an expectation that is some of that stuff, the certain parts of that game are acceptable, because they're not. You know? They're not. You don't get to rush the game for 2 years and expect me to just give you a 10. It's just not a reasonable expectation. So, I don't know. With this situation, I think it's fair for us to criticize. And whatever they decide to do with it is fair for them to do.
Exactly.
You know? So, I don't know. I don't have anything else to say on it, really.
No, not me either.
Okay. Let's move on. Let's cleanse the palate a little bit. So, this actually came out today, day of recording. Sony has announced the second State of Play stream is happening this week on the 9th. That's Thursday, so we will have seen this by the time the next episode is recorded. So we'll have some thoughts on this, I'm sure. Nothing really big here. It's going to be a short one, I think about 10 minutes. It's going to really detail the Medieval remake. And then they did say they are going to give us a first look at a brand new, currently unannounced title. Whatever that means.
Probably a VR title, but
maybe.
Ahead,
I think this might this could be another situation where Sony's shooting themselves in the foot.
They shouldn't do stuff like this.
They shouldn't set up, dude. If this isn't like something that actually gets people excited, they're gonna get flamed again for this.
Yeah, they should, because Nintendo doesn't do this.
No, Nintendo doesn't do this.
They just play it, and then
they're pretty straight for the most part. I mean, they give expectations of what we can expect, but they don't. Dropping something like that is going to make people think you're talking about first party or something.
Yes.
And they're not. There was almost... I do think it is very possible, because I've heard rumors that one of their first party studios is making an Uncharted game, like an Uncharted 5. Not Naughty Dog, somebody else.
Okay.
I think that game might be announced here. I think that could be this game. I think it's possible. But otherwise, I don't see what game this could be. It's definitely not Guerrilla's game. It's definitely not.
I am hoping
anything
for the
from
love
Naughty
of
Dog
God that no one else is thinking what you're thinking, because they are. Holy shit, Sony! Like, you better buckle up, because
if it's not that and it's something, it's like a VR title, like you're talking about.
I'm saying, like, what that. Luckily, we're not popular on Twitter, because what if somebody tweeted that shit out? And holy shit, people are like, oh, he's right. Okay.
I'll set this straight. I've heard this on another podcast that I listened to, that somebody has heard that Sony's got a studio working on an Uncharted game. I don't know how far along it is, but those games are typically they don't take that long to make. Naughty Dog was pooping them out every 2 to 3 years, you know? And if that studio's been working on it for a little bit of time, announcing it now before they announced PS5 would make sense. It'd be a good filler game. In the meantime, before Ghost of Tsushima, Last of Us 2, Death Stranding come out, because we don't have anything for fall, really, from Sony. So it would make sense that game could be the bridge, you know?
Maybe, yeah. I'm not holding my...
Obviously, we've said this before, I don't have any official sources. It's just something I've heard. Reading news cycle, paying attention to news that I've heard. So that's just speculation on my part, though. I've heard nothing about that anywhere. So I've not heard a single soul even mention that.
I will take whatever Sony gives me. Like, whatever they show me, cool.
That's what I'm saying, though. If it's not that, and it's what you're saying, it's like a VR title, dude, they're going to get eviscerated. I'm telling you, they're going to get eviscerated, because... I don't know. People get upset. They get hyped in their head. I think a lot of people are probably thinking this is going to be some world-bending announcement. It's not going to be. Even if it's the Uncharted thing, that's not world-bending.
It's not.
It's cool, but...
I think we may be blowing it up a little bit out of proportion. I'm talking about, like, as far as the reactions, because I think people are probably going to be like, this is nothing for a PS5 right now. You know, I think the PS5 came out, so it kind of killed the hype for, like, a lot of games coming out for the PS4.
Yeah.
So I think we can give them a benefit. We can give the hype crowd the benefit of the doubt, and they may just be like, all right, whatever.
We'll see, Montrell.
Yeah.
We will see. We will find out, my friend. Oh man, I can't wait. I mean, I think after the first one, I hope people's expectations are tempered. Yeah. I'm just thinking that Sony dropping that at the end there. Why even say it?
They can't keep their hand out the cookie jar, bro.
Why even say it? Just drop the trailer. You know, if it's something really cool, just drop the trailer.
We talked about this with Sony. They just don't. Sometimes they don't get it.
Yeah. I know what you mean. Yeah. All right. Whatever. We'll have more thoughts once it's aired and whatever they actually show. Okay. So we got a couple more stories, and these are kind of the big ones from last week. This is probably the biggest one. So Epic has continued to be in the news. Once again, they've created another Epic Store exclusive. Not in the way they've been doing it, though. This time, they actually bought a studio outright, and they bought Psyonix, who are the developers of Rocket League, which is the RC car soccer game.
Phenomenon.
That came out in 2016. It is a fantastic game. A lot of fun.
Yes.
But, oh boy, did this stir up the hornet's nest once again. It's like I feel like Epic, at this point, needs to just, like, take a month and not announce anything. And then just like let everything settle. You know, they've just been doing this week after week after week. How many podcasts? What was the last podcast we had where we haven't mentioned the Epic Store getting an exclusive? Because I legitimately can't remember.
One?
Like I legitimately can't even remember.
I think it's either the first 2 or 3 of them.
It's crazy, dude. Yeah. It's just been week after week after week with this stuff. So, them doing this again obviously got people extremely upset. But the reason it got people upset is they kind of insinuated with their statement that the Steam version is going to be taken off sale at some point in the future. And dope. I think that's obvious, right? Like, once they have it on the Epic Store, why would you want to sell it on Steam anymore? Like, what's the point of that?
That's just not a good idea. That's just not a good idea.
I mean, the game's been on sale on Steam for like close to 3 years.
I just don't think that's a good idea, though. I think they should just leave it. Like, why would you bother it? And I understand from like, no, I don't understand, because like I understand you bought the company, right? Yeah. And now that's your IP and everything. But if it's already on that platform, just leave it there, bro.
Well, okay,
maybe Rocket League 2, Epic Store exclusive,
but dude,
whatever.
Think of it this way, right? From their perspective, they've got a shitload of people on Steam, right? They've all bought the game, and they're going to have the game. They're going to continue to get updates. They're going to get, whatever new DLCs come out and all that stuff. Like, nothing, for the people that have it on Steam, they're not going to lose anything, right?
Yeah.
Because I think I've seen some people kind of worried about that. They would be insane to do that. They would literally destroy this game if they did that. So that's not going to happen.
That's what I'm getting at. That's what I'm worried about.
No, that's not going to happen, dude. There's no way. They would destroy Rocket League. They would literally destroy Rocket League. Because if you can't take a product away from somebody that purchased it. It's like, I understand that these things all say in the fine print that this is like a rental agreement and blah, blah, blah. You don't actually own the game, blah, 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 blah. But nobody does this stuff. Nobody actually does that.
Yeah.
Because you would destroy any goodwill you have.
Exactly.
Like, you're not, like, why would anybody buy a game from you? Like, why would anyone want to buy a game from you in the future? Because you're just gonna pull the rug out from under them now. It's like what there would be fear. I think legitimate fear for anybody that buys any games that are on Steam, that eventually Epic would buy exclusivity. Like, any game that's on both, like, it would hurt. I don't know. It just would be a really bad look, and it would completely fracture the fan base, because all of a sudden all the people that have Rocket League wouldn't be able to play it anymore on PC, and then you just have whatever community is on the Epic Store, and that would be extremely small. I don't think that's ever going to happen. And
I 95% agree with you on that. Like, I really do. I just 1-5% in the back of my head that just thinks Epic's going to be like,
they're not going to do it.
I think they might have the balls to do it.
They're not going to do it.
I think it's one executive out there in Epic right now who's like, yo,
Tim Sweeney's not going to do that, man. They're not going to sell the game. That, I will guarantee you of that. Once it's on Epic Store, they will stop selling the game on Steam. And I think the reason why it doesn't matter to them is because anybody that wants to buy the game now has to go through them. I mean, it's like, the game's going to be, I bet it will be day and date cross-platform with Steam from the Epic Store. I don't think that'll be an issue for them, because they already have cross-platform from PC to PS4 to Xbox to Switch. They have all that cross-platform set up already. So it's not going to be much for them to do it to the Epic Store as well
with
Steam. So I don't think that's going to be an issue. So it's like, what reason do you have not to buy it? It's just the fact that it's on the Epic Store. So
that's true.
They're going to just funnel all future sales through them. And the game's not going to stop selling just because it's on the Epic Store. I'm sure there's some people, I think a lot of the people that own the game now on Steam are probably the people that wouldn't buy it on Epic Store, but they already own it, man. So they don't care.
I don't know, man.
You know?
I'm just really hoping you're right. I'm really hoping you're right.
Look, they're not gonna, dude. They're not gonna disable the game. That would be insane. The only way they would do that is if they gave the game away for free to all those people on the Epic Store. But even that, I don't think they would do. That is still insane because people aren't gonna want to. A lot of those people aren't gonna want to play it on their platform.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
It's just an insane proposition. There's just no way, and I don't know of a single precedent of a company doing this kind of thing. Of that kind of thing. Maybe if anybody listening to this knows of one, please tell me because I've never heard of it. Because it's such a bad consumer look. It would be such
an EA thing to do.
It's such a bad consumer look that it would kill Rocket League. Like, I straight up think it would kill the game.
Yeah, it would. It would definitely.
And why would you buy Psyonix just to kill their game? You know?
Yeah, that's true.
Like, how arrogant do you have to be? Do you think the game is immune to that? To falling apart because of a decision like that? It would just be so foolish, like beyond foolish to me. So I don't know. I mean,
yeah, you're right.
I mean, the thing is with this one though, they bought the studio, so they can do whatever they want at this point. You know, the exclusive deals, I understand the frustration with. This isn't that though. This is them buying a studio. It's different. You know, they can do whatever they want with the studio now. So, I think the exclusive deals thing, I understand the frustration with. This one is just it's unfortunate that Epic happened to buy them. I would expect more acquisitions like this in the future of other games. They just have that much money. It's just weird that Psyonix would want to be bought out by them. You know, I just don't see the point.
Epic seems like one of those publishers or people that you're under who let you get a lot of creative freedom.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I can understand that. But what is being owned by Epic give Psyonix? They have a shitload of money themselves.
I mean, they probably have a lot more resources now. They probably can hire more people, make a better game. I mean, I think that's my point though. They have so much money. They have a lot of money as well. They're like a mini Fortnite, you know? Yeah. This game took off in a ridiculous way after it came out. So I mean, we'll see, man. We'll see.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just wild. Epic just continues to just blow this up, man. But, all right, moving on. This is probably the biggest story for me this week. So, Borderlands 3 had a gameplay reveal event last week. And, sorry about that. That's a video playing. And it was an hour long. It was a good presentation. Let's just talk about the gameplay first. So, what did you think of the gameplay reveal?
It looks very Borderlands.
Yeah.
But it looks fun.
Are you excited about it?
Yes. I actually am.
Because you've been real tepid about this whole series.
I have.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was just excited. I wasn't excited because I remember playing Borderlands 2 and your movement wasn't as fluid. It was okay.
There's definitely a stiffness and a floatiness to the game. Yeah, definitely.
In this game, when I was watching him do certain things, it felt like I was really... It felt like... Well, I feel like the person...
We didn't play this.
Yeah, we didn't play it. It felt like the person was really in control of the character. Mm-hmm. I don't know. To me, in first-person shooters, that thing kind of matters, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, that's why I couldn't really get into Wolfenstein, because it just felt too classic first-person. Yeah. Whereas with this game... it's like very modern, but like still that Borderlands feel.
Well, Borderlands 2 was janky. Like the engine they were using was definitely janky. Things would sometimes, like effects would happen delayed, and movement was definitely weird. NPC movement in particular was very strange. Yeah. The enemies did not move very fluidly. Yeah. They didn't move very well a lot of the time. So. I will say from that perspective, the game looks much improved. Enemies look a lot more active. Mm-hmm. For sure. I think the skill trees, all the talk about the skill trees being one skill tree is fucking weird because it's not. It's just 3 skill trees. Like it just looks like 3 skill trees again, and there's different skills on each tree. Yeah. But that's like the only change is like you have a different skill at the top of each skill tree. So that's going to be different from a design perspective because. Traditionally, the characters have only had one active ability that they get. And they get that, they get that at level 5, and they all get it. And then, well, they have different abilities, obviously. But then their skill trees they have 3 different skill trees centered around that one active skill.
Yeah.
You know, that changes in different ways.
Yeah.
And changes how you play in different ways. This one seems like it's going to be more, you're going to be able to play the same character in different ways, which is going to be an interesting change.
Yeah, that's one thing I did notice, because I do remember that in Borderlands 2... You had that one skill, like you said, and sometimes when you use that skill, it'll be on such a long cooldown.
Certain skills were worse than others with that, yeah. Some of them had short cooldowns, some of them didn't have short cooldowns. I will say a lot of the characters had really bad skill trees, some of them. Yeah. That's kind of what I'm concerned about with this approach, is that some of these skills I think are going to be real lackluster in some of the higher difficulties.
Okay.
That's kind of been the issue with Borderlands, is balance in the past. Particularly Borderlands 2 was pretty bad about balance in Ultimate Vault Hunter mode, so I am worried about the skill trees in that sense, since they have so many of them that they're going to have. The other issue I kind of wonder is late game, when you're high level, are your skills, like, it makes me wonder if the skill trees, like, are they only going to affect that one skill, and then if you have a different skill active, those skills aren't going to be, you know, worthwhile for you to have? Like, are there going to be passives on each of the skill trees that you can kind of have? Because you know how in Borderlands 2 you can go down each of the skill trees and you can kind of go down one and then you can go down the other ones a little bit because you had extra skill points.
Yep.
Kind of wondering the same thing with Borderlands 3 with the way the skill trees are designed. Are the skills only going to affect that skill, or are they going to some of them going to affect your whole character? You know, so that's kind of something I wonder about as well, for sure. With that, I will say the guns look pretty cool, man.
Yeah, they do,
dude. They got away with guns in this game, like the uniqueness of the weapons. There's just something about the way they design guns
that no other game probably
gets at all.
The only game I can think that came close is Destiny.
Yeah,
Destiny 1.
I agree.
Not Destiny 2.
I agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah, this game though, like they use their imaginations, man. Like this is a video game. Like,
yes.
They definitely...
Yeah, and they embrace that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, I feel like a lot of... Sometimes companies just take themselves too seriously and they just want to ground everything. Like, man, be a video game for once.
Yeah, I mean, the game definitely looks goofy in the Borderlands way. I will say the story looks exactly... Dude, they're doing almost exactly what I described a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
They're doing almost exactly what I wanted. You know, they're basically going almost as far as I wanted, except for it doesn't look like you're going to have squad mates in the way I wanted them to.
Yeah.
But that was a bit of a reach. I feel like that was realistic.
But the simple fact that your AI squad mates can revive
pick you up,
yeah.
that's a big change. So that's going to be interesting. It makes me wonder, because when you're going to have those AI squad mates, are they going to have health bars? Like, are you going to be able to see them?
It seems like they designed this game primarily around single player. Like,
yeah.
That's the vibe I get from it. Like, yeah, if you
is good.
Yeah, it is. If you want to jump in, you can. Yeah. But like, if you don't, then you can just have your squad mates with you.
And the scaling for multiplayer is kind of cool. They're giving you options. So the game's going to have instance loot, which is a new thing for Borderlands.
Yeah, that was weird that the other ones didn't.
I forgot that 2 didn't have that, and it is weird to think about. But yeah, it didn't. Yeah, it was
crazy,
dude. If a legendary dropped, it was like. You hopefully you were playing with cool people who would know who needed that more than anybody else, right? And didn't just take it and pick it up. I will say, yeah, so it is cool that they're giving you the option, though. If you still want to play that free-for-all loot drops for everybody style, you still can.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but they also have the instance loot if you'd rather have that experience as well. Also, the scaling for co-op is interesting, so they're going to scale.
Yeah, how do you feel about that?
I think it's weird because you're going to get scaled down, but the loot is going to be your level. So, say you're level, 50, right? And you're playing with a level 5. You get scaled down to level 5 from a damage point of view using all the stuff you have, but you're getting level 50 guns, so you could almost like farm... It makes me wonder what restrictions there are, because it feels exploitable.
That's what I would say. It does feel like you can exploit it really.
I imagine there will be restrictions.
Okay.
I don't feel like they would let that loophole sit there. I mean, dude, that was the first thing that came to mind when they introduced it, and I'm sure they've thought about that.
Yeah.
So I have a feeling there's probably a limit to that. I'm sure at level 50 you probably can't get great guns doing co-op like that, but it is cool that if you're like level 25 though or whatever, You can jump into somebody else's game and play. So it kind of means for us, like when the game comes out later this year, I don't have to feel scared to level my character up. I can play, and then I can just jump in with you guys whenever you're on. Yeah, it's not like the Division or Anthem where it was weird. And
the Division was really weird.
Yeah, it was just not really super well done. So I like the ease of use for this. I think it's a good system in that regard. I think with co-op, that's kind of what you need is ease of use. Yeah. Right. Make it as easy as possible for people to jump in and out. Yeah. Without affecting, without having to be synced up or anything like that.
I wish more games had AI partners.
Me too, man. That's kind of the thing I wanted for this game is like, dude, it just fits the way they were doing things and the way the story was shaping up. It just had a very Mass Effect feel to it for me from the perspective of the structure of the game. Mm-hmm. Now, obviously not like the galactic storyline or anything like that, but you could there's tons of characters within the Borderlands universe now that are going to be in this game that are going to be on your ship with you that I feel like you could have a very Persona, Mass Effect-esque, like social system where you talk to them and you get to know them better and you have quests from them and stuff like that. You kind of have like a almost like a bond with them. I feel like they really could have gone the route, so I'm hoping that's in there, but we haven't really seen much of that as far as I can see. But I mean, to me, dude, the game, it looks great. I'm excited.
I have no complaints about it. I think I'm actually gonna buy it probably first day.
Oh, I'm day one, dude. I'm in day one. So the interesting thing that came out of this though is really not the gameplay reveal. Unfortunately, Randy Pitchford just cannot keep himself out of the news. So this dude said at the very end, and I remember watching this last week. I rolled my eyes when this comment came out because I instantly knew he misspoke, and he said. What was the exact quote? It was something along the lines of
no microtransactions.
Yeah, so he said we're going to have cosmetic items similar to Borderlands 2, but we're not going to have any quote unquote microtransactions, any of those garbage microtransactions in the game. And he said free to play garbage microtransactions. So he was talking specifically about loot boxes and premium currency. Yeah. But he didn't really specify that in the presentation. So obviously that was taken out of context. So Game Informer posted an article kind of clarifying his statement, saying that there will be microtransactions in the game, just not the premium ones, like the loot boxes and premium currency, the free to play stuff. Yeah. And Randy Pitchford reacted very poorly to this. He tweeted a lot. I'm going to read just his specific reply tweet, the first one that I saw. This is, quote, "Come on, guys, shitty clickbait headline. Literally seconds before I said that, I made it very clear we're going to do more cosmetic stuff like we did in Borderlands 2. You know I was talking about premium currency and loot boxes kind of stuff not being in your game." And then he replied to that saying, "Why you guys would fuck me on this is beyond me. Thanks a lot." And he continued to go down this path for like 2 days. Like, he's just arguing with people on Twitter for days. And then he had this like 40 tweet thread where he was explaining his whole logic, and then he apologized for kind of, he didn't say misleading people, but like causing confusion with his words. And then he was still mad at Game Informer, and then he kept telling people who were replying to him, like calling him a liar or saying that he kind of misled people. He was like, Game Informer convinced you that I'm a liar, like people don't have the ability to think for themselves. Like, he was being really just stupid to people. Mm-hmm. And dude, this guy just can't get out of the way. Like, it's interesting because he clearly really loves Borderlands. Yeah. Like, he's really invested in this game. He does not want to fuck this game up. That's what I get out of the way Randy was talking about it and the way he's talked about it since all this stuff happened. He really wants this game to be as good as it can be, and I appreciate that as a fan of the series. However, he just keeps making the story about him inadvertently. I don't think it's necessarily...
I don't think
purposeful.
It's on purpose.
Yeah, I don't think it's purposeful.
A lot of people are saying that it's on purpose. I'm like,
I don't think it is. I just think the dude misspoke and he didn't own up to that.
Yeah, he's kind of scared.
It took him too long to own up to that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't get that. I mean, when I saw him on stage and everything like that nature, because it definitely changed my opinion of him compared to like way back when he did his interviews on like YouTube and stuff like that. Yeah. I just thought he was like a huge, like, excuse my language, but douchebag. Like, I just thought he was a huge douche.
I mean, He kind of is sometimes.
Yeah.
But, dude, yeah, on stage, he seemed really enthusiastic.
Yeah, and just the way he was communicating with the fans and stuff like that.
Yeah, and he was really just excited about the game in a good way. And then, this whole thing that came out afterwards, though, is just like, man, dude, like, can you just, like, stop? Like, I don't understand. Like, anybody working at Gearbox, I really wonder what they think about all this. Like,
they probably just like, man, that's Randy.
Boy, dude.
It's Quagmire.
It shouldn't be that way, though, man. Like, just get out of the way, bro. You don't have to do this. Like, you don't have to go at news outlets because they paint you in a poor light. Like, just let it go, man. You're kind of proving their point by doing this, you know? It's like... So, I don't know. I get frustrated because it's like this whole week should be about Borderlands and it ends up being about Randy.
Yeah. I mean, it's sad. I mean, I'll be honest. I kind of agree with him on a certain aspect. Like, they need to stop with the clickbaity articles and stuff like that. Because Kotaku just went through this thing last week. Yeah. Or a week before last. But, so I understand him on that front. And I feel like he probably was just frustrated with that. But at the same sense, like you said, you have to be adult about it and just let it go. Like, also,
let's be clear. Borderlands 2 is going to have microtransactions. The skins
3.
they sell are microtransactions.
Yeah.
The little mini DLCs they sell, those are microtransactions.
Yeah.
Even the campaign DLCs, those are microtransactions.
Yeah.
They're not... There's no way to mince words with that.
Yeah.
Even The Witcher 3... They're expansions, which are very meaty and worth your money. They're microtransactions.
Yeah.
All these things are microtransactions. Anything that you are charging people money for after the game comes out is a microtransaction. That is my opinion on it. There's no... There's no mincing words with that. I think the problem with him, he does this... He's done this before. He did this with... Battleborn, and he killed that game because of it. He refused to let people call that game a MOBA because he thought there was a negative connotation to the word MOBA in relation to a game, even though his game is a freaking MOBA. That game is a MOBA, and he refused to let people call it that, so then people started comparing it to Overwatch, and he got obliterated. The game got obliterated because Overwatch took off, and Battleborn, nobody cared about it. Because
Didn't he say the reason why Overwatch took off was because of the porn?
I don't know. I think he might have.
Yeah, I believe he
sounds
said
like
that.
Something he would say.
Yeah, he said that. I believe he said
so
that.
He's got this aversion to... he's definitely got this aversion to terms that he deems to be have a negative connotation to him, and I think obviously microtransactions is that word, one of those words.
Yeah.
And the industry's doing this as a whole. They're trying to avoid the word microtransactions. They're trying to say like post-launch monetization or monetizing players and things like that. They're trying to make it sound...
That sounds even worse.
They're trying to make it sound less toxic. But, dude, it's like... It's just call a spade a spade. It's a microtransaction. Your little $1 head skin that you're going to sell after the game comes out, that's a microtransaction.
Yes.
You know? Like, even if you don't think the DLC expansions are microtransactions, the game still has microtransactions.
Yes.
So, whatever, dude. Like, I don't know. It's just annoying. I wish it would stop because this game looks great. Like, this game looks like it's going to be one of the best games of the year. And it's just, like, this conversation shouldn't be about the CEO of the damn company.
Yeah.
You know? Not keeping his mouth shut. Like, he shouldn't be going at these people as hard as he is, too. He's, like, he's being really spiteful. Like, he's saying really mean shit, you know? And I don't know. I don't like to see that. So, from the perspective of the game looks great. I think I'm going on media blackout from here on out. I'm going to try to avoid watching any more about this game because I've seen everything I need to see.
All right.
I don't need to see any more. But, I don't know. For the sake of this show, I might end up having to watch stuff, but we'll see how that goes.
All right.
I'm sure we'll see more at E3 as well, and I probably won't be able to avoid that, sadly, either. But, do you have any more thoughts on that whole gameplay reveal?
Nope.
All right, fair enough. Let's move on to game release dates. So, Bloodstained, Ritual of the Night, which is Koji Igarashi's kind of post-Konami game. It's a Castlevania clone-esque game. And it's kind of been delayed a couple times. Yeah, it's been kind of delayed a couple times.
I get this in the other game, Code Vein, mixed up all the time.
Yeah, it's been delayed a few times, but it has been given an official release date of June 18th, which is actually pretty soon. It's coming out on Xbox One, PC, and PS4 on June 18th, and then it is coming to Switch on June 25th, a week later. So, This game is interesting because I've been really interested in it. However, it's been through a weird development cycle where it feels like it's been a little tortured. So I'm kind of tepid on it. I may wait to play this for a little while, see kind of what people think before I jump into it. I'm hoping it's good, but I don't know if I'm going to play this right away either. We'll see. What about you?
That's what I meant to tell you. Shit. I'm gonna wait. I've never been a huge Castlevania fan. I've been more of a Metroid guy.
Yeah.
Because they're both the same kind of style of game, but like different settings. So obviously, I couldn't buy a Castlevania when I was young because my grandma was very religious, and Castlevania, Dracula, the cross,
uses all that cross.
Yeah, so she didn't really like that. And
oh man, that's
so hilarious. I went to Metroid, and I kind of been on Metroid like that.
Yeah, I've never really played them, man. Like, I've always wanted to play Symphony of the Night, but I never really got around to it. So, since it's on PS4, I may try it out in the future. But I am interested in this game, so I may give this one a spin, depending on how much it costs. I imagine it'll probably be... I don't think it says here. I think it'll probably be $40.
Okay, cool.
I would imagine. But
so what I did mean to tell you, I'm going to put this in the doc, too. It's not necessarily a game, but I remember last week we were talking about makers, like Mario Maker. So there is a fan-made Mega Man maker out there.
Yeah, I think I knew that.
Oh, you knew that? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
They did update it to where I think they just put X stuff in there now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So there are makers out there. I mean, I think this is going to kind of take off. And once it does, I think Capcom's going to shut it down. But
and make their own game.
Yeah, make their own game. But hey, man, it's out there. I just put that one to put that in the release game thing.
Interesting. Did that just come out?
It came out in March.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. All right. Moving on. So it was announced that Devil May Cry, the original Devil May Cry, is going to come to Nintendo Switch.
Okay, sounds good.
Which is, probably taking advantage of the whole hype surrounding 5. It is weird. Why would you do the first one?
That's what I'm saying. Maybe, no, I would say maybe got some kind of exclusivity deal, but Devil May Cry, the 3 came out on Xbox as well.
Yeah.
Well, the remakes, rather. They came out on Xbox 360 and Xbox One.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think maybe this is the easiest game to launch.
Yeah,
over,
for sure.
To port over.
5 probably most certainly can't play on Switch, so that's probably not.
However, I can see 4 playing on the Switch.
Yeah,
so
you think so?
I think 4 can handle it.
Yeah, that's true. It's a PS3 game.
Yeah, I think 4 can handle it. I think all of them can handle it.
There's also been some rumor that this might lead into Dante getting
revealed
for Smash.
No, his name's Joker. So? He's already on there. That character plays exactly what you might think. Dante may play like. I don't think he's coming to Smash.
Did you play Joker in Smash or?
No, I've seen gameplay footage. I've been watching some like gameplay footage of him. He plays almost like how you would think Dante would play in Smash. Yeah. So yeah, we got Joker, we got Bayonetta in there, man. Like they're not gonna put like another character action person in there. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, so I don't think it says when it's going to be coming.
In June.
Oh, it says summer 2019 launch. Yeah. So sometime between June and August, probably, I would imagine. So if you want to play the original Devil May Cry on Switch...
It's not a bad game.
You will be able to.
It is pretty dated, but it's not a bad game.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be like $10.
Yeah.
Maybe $20. They might do 20.
No, at Capcom, probably $20.
They'll do 20.
Yeah,
they'll do 20. All right, moving on.
Well, that's not Capcom.
Moving on to game releases. Man, what else? What's coming out this week?
Days Gone came out. That
was last week. Puyo Puyo Champions is coming out this week.
Oh yeah, and that game came out, and Final Fantasy 12 came out last week.
That was last week, which I believe we mentioned in the last podcast. Yeah. Life is Strange 2 Episode 3.
Oh, I wish that game fucking died.
Masquerada. Actually, this one's interesting. Masquerada Songs and Shadows is coming to Switch. So this is like a top-down CRPG in the vein of like Baldur's Gate or Pillars of Eternity.
Really?
That game did interest me at a time. So on Switch, I might check that out. That's an interesting one. Yakuza Kiwami 2 is coming to PC.
Very good game, by the way. Very underrated, solid game.
Yeah, I'm not really seeing anything else too big.
They got Saints Row coming to the Switch, guys.
Yep.
The 3rd.
That's about it.
Yep.
And then next week is Rage 2.
I actually might buy that. It looks pretty good, yeah. I didn't play the first one, but this one looks really good.
Fair enough. Well, doesn't seem to be a big week. This month is kind of light in general, so...
Yeah, we was expecting that going into the summertime anyway.
100%. All right, moving on, I guess. Topic of the show. So, nothing... I don't know, I thought about making Borderlands 3 reveal topic of the show, but it didn't feel right, and, nothing too crazy. So we're kind of just going to go off of...
So what made you choose this topic? I'm interested because you brought this up to me.
Yeah, so there's an article in Xbox released a community standards for Xbox post in last week, and it kind of talked about what's acceptable trash talk when you're playing a game online and when you're on mic and stuff like that. And I also heard this talked about in a couple other places, and it just kind of piqued my interest as a topic because we've talked about this many a time before. So the topic is basically toxicity in video games. What constitutes toxicity, what kind of is toxicity, and how it's kind of utilized by the industry, reviewed by the industry. So, I was thinking about, because we mentioned a couple weeks ago Sony kind of clamping down on sexual content in games.
Yeah.
And their reference of the Me Too movement as a weird way of citing toxicity for an anti-consumer decision was such a weak move by them, in my opinion, that it's just one of those things that I feel like companies like to use the term toxicity or use... kind of toxic subject matter to kind of as excuses for why they do certain things sometimes.
I agree.
And I think it's a really poor look for them.
So what do you think Xbox's reasons for releasing this was?
I don't know. This kind of came out of nowhere. I will say it was kind of funny because there are some certain things. Let me try to find the exact quotes.
You know what? Xbox has been on this run where they've been really engaging the community. Like, I don't know if you follow their Twitter and stuff like that, but they've been really, really engaging into their community. They had this one Xbox post called, they have a whole bunch of, well, it's going to sound really bad, but just work with me here. They have a whole bunch of African Americans in their studio, in their offices and stuff, and they labeled themselves the blacks.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, I remember seeing this. Yeah.
So I mean,
wasn't it like blacks at Xbox or something like that?
Yeah, something like that. But the actual person who's a black person posted it on the Xbox site.
Yeah, no, it was in the official Xbox Twitter.
Yeah. And I mean, they didn't delete it. They took it in stride, and people were like, "What is this?" And they explained it. I feel like it was justified. I'm like, oh, okay, this is pretty cool. Like, I feel like they.
I mean, if it's a self-created group, self-labeled group within Xbox,
I don't think it was being facetious. I don't think it was being racist or anything like that.
Yeah. No, I think it's fine. I think it does bring up an interesting conversation of should they label themselves that way? Does it perpetuate certain stereotypes? But I don't know. It's kind of a weird conversation for me to get into. So.
Well, I mean, we can have a conversation.
No, I don't really want to talk about that.
Yeah.
But it was. I do remember that, though. Specifically, remember that, and I just kind of raised an eyebrow at it, and then I looked at it, and I was like, "Oh, okay, that's fine, whatever, it's cool." But yeah, I found the quotes. So this is acceptable trash talk, according to Xbox, includes "Get destroyed. Can't believe you thought you were on my level. That was some serious potato aim. Get wrecked. Only reason you went positive was you spent all game camping. Try again, kid. Cheap win. Come at me when you can actually drive without running cars off the road. That sucked. Get good and then come back when your KD's over 1.
That's actually pretty funny.
That's acceptable trash talk. So it's funny though, because it's actually not that PG. It's actually pretty trash talk.
Yeah.
But then the going too far is get brackets sexual threat. Can't believe you thought you were on my level. Hey, brackets profanity. That was some serious potato aim. Get wrecked, trash. Yeah. Only reason you went positive was you spent all camping. KYS, kill yourself, kid. So it continues with stuff like that. So it's basically trash talk's acceptable if you don't start using racial slurs or using profanity. Which to me is fair enough.
Yeah,
fair enough. I'm actually surprised that they actually did this. I thought it was funny when I looked into it. I was like,
they didn't do the Ubisoft.
They didn't go that PG with this. Like they're like, get wrecked, kid. Like,
and this is what I mean. With they're like communicating like Xbox is really did 180 from
you wanted to say 360.
Yeah, I wanted to say 360, but I can't. But they want to do it. They did a 180. I feel like this is cool when compared to like what Sony just did last week. But and Nintendo, they really don't even acknowledge them.
Oh my god, dude! They're just like Sony's like another thing Sony did too, dude, was with the crossplay thing. Was like, remember when they said, "Yeah, we don't want to do crossplay because we want to protect the kids." Like, F you guys, F you guys, F you so hard. You're gonna protect the kids. You think your ecosystem is clean? Like, get out of here. You guys are morons. Like. It's such like that kind of stuff. That kind of stuff is so dumb to me. That's such a
just be honest about what you're doing, man.
Dumb look. Yeah. And no, obviously it's like they don't want to be honest because the honesty is that they don't want to do it.
They're making more money.
They didn't want to do crossplay. They want to force people to stay on their platform. You know, and
so I mean,
I don't know.
Yeah, it's just weird. Like, but getting over to like Toxicity. I do remember. I think the reason why Xbox came out is because. A lot of this stuff kind of was, I don't want to say bred on their stuff, because obviously it was on PC before it came to Xbox. Yeah. But Xbox 360...
everything was on PC before.
Yeah, but Xbox really kind of like, console-wise, it was like the first interaction for...
Well, because they were the first ones to have an online infrastructure that did party chat and game chat and stuff.
Yeah, and I just remember being on it and playing Halo.
Oh, boy.
And if I say anything, I used to get... Like, this is why I have such a tough skin now, because I used to get...
Dude, people hurling racial slurs.
They was throwing that N-word like it was a fucking basketball,
dude,
man.
Wow, dude. I just...
Man, they heard my voice. Like, sometimes they couldn't tell. Yeah. So they're like, are you a white boy trying to act black? And I'm like, nah, man, I'm not. So sometimes they couldn't tell. But and then sometimes they could tell or whatever. But I just remember, and if you heard a girl on mic, oh my god.
Dude, I know.
Oh my god.
So let's like get into it though. Like, what is toxicity within video games to you? Like, what does that mean? What do you think that means?
To me, it's just being overly competitive. You're just taking the thing way too seriously. Like,
acting like you're a pro.
Yeah, like we can if we can put it in layman's terms, like, because we both played sports in high school and stuff like that in regular school. So like, it's just like that one over competitive guy on the court. Who's just like. You're just like, whoa, chill out, bro. Like, you get fouled or something, bad call, and he wants to fight everybody. Like, that's to me, that's as bad as when you're on Xbox Live, PSN, whatever, where they just flame you, like constantly flaming you. We talked about this last week with MOBAs, how it's terrible on there. It's so bad on there. I'm 30 years old, and I always mute all. I instantly go.
I've been doing that for years.
Yeah,
I can't do it anymore. And I don't have the patience for these kids.
Yeah,
idiots. I don't even want to say kids. Like.
Yeah, because some of them are not kids.
Some of them aren't kids.
Are grown ass men.
They're older than me. Yeah, which is insane, dude.
I don't know. I mean, this is one way to combat it for like the next generation of gamers. Yeah. But like, I don't honestly know how you can combat it, man. I mean, I feel like this is why, because of those people, this is why we have such like not segregated, but like. Game chat is just non-existent anymore. Like, because everyone's in their own party.
Nobody wants to do it.
Yeah, because everyone's just in their own party chats.
People have ruined it for everybody.
Yeah.
And to me, toxicity is those things that you said, right? Like, taking it too far, taking things too seriously, being too competitive, but also just being mean to people. Right?
Oh, yeah.
For no reason.
For no reason at all.
Like, to me, like, obviously, I know I sound like a freaking Care Bear with this stuff sometimes, but there's really very little reason to be mean to people in the way that people are mean on the internet.
Yes.
It's like where you're just calling people names, you're you're calling out, like you're just being a shithead to somebody, you know, like the way Randy Pitchford was to Game Informer.
Yeah,
right? That's just unnecessary. You can be you can be an adult and have a constructive conversation without saying.
I was just going to say that it kind of kills the constructive conversation because I'll take for example what I was trying to do last week. I had a bad game of League of Legends where one of my bottom laners or whatever went like 0-10, and that pretty much cost us the game. And I can tell that, you know, this guy, either he was just having a bad day or he really didn't know what the hell he was doing. So I'm like, hey, bro, like, you know, before you come back into ranked, just try to do some more normal games, some more public games, and try to get, you know, try to figure out your champion. He took that as an insult. And, like, I feel like if the community wasn't so toxic, he wouldn't instantly take it as an insult and start bashing me and stuff like that. Yeah. So it does ruin constructive criticism of people because they always feel on edge. When you get flamed, like, keep in mind too, guys, like, I know a lot of people, like, especially in MOBAs, why can't you just leave the game? Well, if I leave the game, I get punished for leaving.
You get penalized. Yeah.
And I gotta wait like 20 minutes to play another game or something like that.
And that's like a permanent mark on your account, too.
Exactly.
It's like your driving record or something. It's like you get a permanent mark on your account, so it's like you can't really leave. Yeah. So and if you go AFK, people will report you.
Exactly.
So you're like forced to stay in the game. And dude, like, I know I've told you this story. I don't know if I said that. Have I said this on the podcast yet? The one about the reason why I quit League of Legends? I don't think I've said it on the podcast.
No.
So let me get into it, I guess. So I played League of Legends when it came out on beta. I was in the beta for League, and this was like 2008 or 2009. And I played the game for about a year to 2 years, probably, pretty heavily. I was really into MOBAs. I was super into Dota on Warcraft 3, and when this game was announced, I was like, oh my god, MOBAs are, like, this is becoming a real game. You know, it's not, I don't have to play Warcraft to play a game like this anymore. You know, so I was really excited about it. And when it came out, it was a good game. Like, it was fun. I really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun with it. Dota was nowhere to be seen. Like, Dota 2 wasn't even a thought yet, really, at that
Dota
point in time.
came out like 3 years after?
2012 when it was officially released.
Okay.
And, yeah, so it was years before that was happening. So I was really into League at this point in time. I was playing daily, like, by myself, just playing pubs and ranked and whatever. And... dude, I had this game one time. I used to play as Shaco, which is one of the bursty DPS squishy characters. He's a jester that dual wields daggers. He does more damage from behind and whatnot. And he has this ability where he can like teleport and go invisible. So he was really right up my alley. It's the kind of character I like to play as. And back then, he was really, really good for the most part. Yeah. But he was fairly easily counterable if people like focused on you, because he can't handle. He can't really fight. He couldn't fight multiple characters by himself at the time. Yeah. Like, he wasn't designed like that. He was good as a ganker, right? Like, he was really good coming up from behind, surprising somebody, killing them really fast, and then running away.
Yep, exactly.
Right? That was kind of his whole style. So. Obviously, if you have a bad game, like, dude, you can get snowballed so fast where you're useless.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly. Yep.
And he's not good at level 1 either. He's not a character that's
terrible level.
Yeah, he's not a character that's intended to fight right away. You need a couple levels where you have some options for abilities before you can kind of like start taking people on.
Yeah.
Right. So I was playing this game and I was laning with a Alistair, which is the big beefy bull tank character who is kind of a level 1 fighter.
Yeah.
A little bit, but. Really not that great either at it.
Yeah, he's more so as like a support.
Yeah, he needs somebody else with him that can do a lot of damage, which Shaco can, but at level 1, not really. Yeah. You know, he wasn't super great about it. So he wanted to attack, what's the character? Vivi, or the one that looks like the Black Mage from...
Oh, Vigar,
yeah. So we were up against Vigar, and then I think the healer, that long blonde-haired healer character?
What...
She's like a ranged character. She has like a staff, I think.
Okay.
I can't remember her name for the life of me.
Soraka?
It might be her.
Okay.
Yeah. But she was like this healer character, and we're with Vigar, right? Mm-hmm. 2 ranged characters against 2 melees. One whose Vigar was super bursty at the time.
Oh, like, he's still super bursty.
Yeah, he was insanely bursty. Even at level 1, he would just he could wreck you. With her healing, right? Yeah. As a backup healing. And this dude wanted to attack both of them, right? And right from level 1. Like, go in, like, no other help whatsoever. Like, no one else helping us. And we died. Like, we got wrecked. Like, we didn't even get close to killing one of them. And we both died. Like, and I tried to back away, and I still got killed. You know, I was trying to run away and save myself. So this dude gets really mad at me, and then we go back to lane, though, and he wants to do it again. Now they're like level 2, almost level 3. We're both level 1, don't have anything, and he wants to gank them again, like right away.
Yeah.
You know, stupid, terrible play, right? You're doubling down on a bad move, right?
Yeah.
So we go in again, we die again. And then the rest of the game, like, the rest of the game was a nightmare because they're like level 4, we're level 1, we can't even go into the lane.
Yeah.
You know, and like we can't farm, we can't hit anything because the second we do, they're right on top of us, murdering us.
Exactly.
You know? So this dude, though, blames me the whole time, right? And I'm telling him, I told him early on, I was like, dude, this is a bad idea. I don't want to gank them. We shouldn't gank them. But I felt committed as a teammate to like help him out, at least try.
Yeah.
Right? Both times, but he blamed me both times, right?
Yeah.
And he just kept flaming me like the whole game, right? And I'm like sitting in a tower trying not to die, and he goes in and gets himself killed again, and he blames me for not moving.
And then
it's like,
let me guess how this plays out. So I didn't have to cut you off,
yeah.
So he's flaming you because you didn't want to make a bad play, and
yeah.
you guys made a bad play initially.
Which I didn't want to do in the first place.
Which you want to do in the first place.
And I told him that.
And then he wants to double down on a bad play instead of like farming for minions.
And I still told him I didn't want to do that. He still didn't do it.
Yeah. So not even hearing the story, I'm going to guess exactly what happened next. Because this happens in a lot of games, people, and you guys need to understand this. So he's flaming you. He's just flaming you in chat. He's probably in all chat at this point. So he's
not
flaming,
quite.
Not
yeah,
quite
it took
yet.
a little while to get there.
But, so he's probably just flaming you on team chat.
Yeah.
And then the other team sees like, I don't know what lane you guys are in. Like, man,
we were in top.
Top lane.
Yeah.
Man, top lane's doing terrible right now. And he's like, man, it wasn't me. It was Shaco. Shaco's doing terrible. Look how bad he is. Blah blah blah. And everyone's like, yeah, Shaco is bad.
We're both like 0-5.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah. And they're just like, yeah, Shaco is bad because he's the most vocal one. So they all just. Your team all just like on you now at this point. They're like, man, you're bad. That's exactly how it went. Yeah. Then someone probably said something in all chat, and then all chat was like, yeah, your Shaco was bad. That was the bad play.
Well, dude, no, yeah. So this is how it goes, right? So we're in the mid game. By the mid game, like the whole team's against me. I don't want to play anymore.
Yeah,
but I'm stuck.
You're stuck because
I can't leave the game.
You can't leave the game.
I can't leave the game, and if I go AFK, they're gonna report me. So I'm sitting there still trying to play, but I'm so dejected and like down that I'm playing terribly. Like admittedly, like I was starting to play really poorly.
Yeah.
But like it just had been this snowball, and the Alistair has a couple good plays in the middle of the game, right? So
okay.
Yeah, so that's how it goes, right? So he has a couple good moments where our team actually like does something effective, and I don't get any kills, and you know I'm like 0-9 or whatever, you know, and I like don't have any assists or anything like that.
Yeah.
You know, I just have this like awful game. But it all started because of what happened at the beginning, right? Like, if he had just let me play my game, we could have won, probably.
Yeah.
You know? But once Shaco back then, once Shaco was, like, down, he's so easy to keep down, dude.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need much to keep him down because he's so squishy, and if he can't do damage, he's not a threat.
Yeah.
Like, you don't even have to worry about him. So, he's just, like, an annoyance. Like, so, it was at the point where I couldn't even kill Vygar 1v1 if I got the jump on him, you know?
Oh, yeah, because he's definitely, like, a snowbally champion.
Yeah, if he just turned on me and kill me in like 2 shots.
Yeah.
You know, it's like stupid, dude. It's so the teams turned against me. They all are all of them are flaming me at this point. Not just him. Like they're all telling me I'm terrible and Shaco, what are you doing? Why are you in jungle? Why are you not helping us in team fights? And it's like I don't want to help any of you. You know, it's like like you're all being assholes. Like I didn't do anything wrong. I'm literally just trying to play the game and you're all like jumping down my throat.
Yeah.
I don't like I'm just trying to play this game out at this point. Like, I don't, I was frustrated. I'm pretty sure I said something like that in chat. I think after that, I think I just shut up for the rest of the game. Like, I just didn't say a word because it was, like, saying that just set them off even more.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you're terrible, not a team player, whatever. And then I remember, it was, like, late in the game. They were pushing our base, and, then they started saying, because I think at a point, I got so mad and so frustrated. I was just sitting there, like this. I just sat back and I wasn't playing anymore. Like I just AFK'd in the fountain. Like, but I was still sitting at my computer, like watching. And they like pinged me and then they pointed me out and then they were like, "Oh, he's AFK in the fountain. This Shaco's terrible." And then the other team just dogpiled on top of me. It was like, "Yeah, your Shaco was awful." Blah blah blah. It's one of the worst gaming experiences I've ever had in my life, and I never played League of Legends after that game. Like until a few weeks ago when we started playing again, I didn't play it for 8 years after that because that one experience was so overwhelmingly negative that I just a game that I had been obsessively playing for years, I couldn't play it, dude. So I just couldn't do it.
So like just think of people who aren't, because me and you have fairly tough skin when it comes to video games and trash talking.
Yeah.
Like, just think of people who are more sensitive than us who try to get into video games. So that happens, like, these type of stories happen all the time. Like, even with me, I play League of Legends, and that happens to me all the time as a position I play.
Yeah, and it's such unacceptable behavior.
It is.
Like, I have no patience for it now. If I keep chat on and I see people flaming me or anybody else, I'm done. I'm like, dude, shut your mouth and play the game. Nobody cares that you think you're better than this person or you think you're better than me.
Yeah, because
nobody
we're all
cares.
at the same
we're
level.
playing public.
Yeah.
We're not even playing ranked, bro. No one cares. So shut up, okay?
Yeah, and even if we're playing ranked, it's just like, at a certain point, do you think flaming this guy
is going to make him play better?
Make him play better. It's not. Dude, that's why I don't flame. Yeah. I flame to myself. Like, man, this guy is horrible. I may be saying to myself.
I do the same thing.
But I'm not going to put it in chat, or I'm not going to put it on mic.
Dude.
You know?
No, I'm not going to. It's like an internal thought, right?
Yeah.
It's something you're not going to say outwardly, right?
Yeah.
And, dude, like, I've played with plenty of people in Dota that have bad games, and I start seeing teammates, like, going down their throat, and I'm like, dude, shut up. You've probably had a game worse than he's having right now.
And that's what we need. We need more people. Because I do the same thing. Before I mute the chat, I tell them, like, man, maybe he's just having a bad game. Or if I'm the one doing bad, I just instantly mute chat. I'm like, you know what? I'm having a bad game. A couple of ganks I try to play off, they didn't read it the way I wanted to read it, and whatever happens. So I just mute the game. Yeah. But, like, It's people who can't take that. And even if you don't have that ability to mute sometime in games, which I think a lot of games do now.
Some games don't have that, though.
Yeah.
And League didn't at the time.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't mute. That was not an option at the time, muting chat. I didn't have the ability to do that back then. So I just had to take the abuse.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, I couldn't leave the game. I mean, at a certain point, I probably should have just left the game and taken the abandonment, but it's just like, I didn't do anything wrong, so why should I take a hit on my account?
Yeah, and I know people are like, why didn't you just walk away from the computer screen? Or I know people are like cyberbullying isn't, like, I was one of those people too, but then I started putting it, I was one of those people who were like, cyberbullying isn't real, but then I started putting it in terms of like video games, right?
It's totally real, dude.
Yeah, and
that's nonsense.
Yeah, I started putting it in terms of like video games. I'm like, man, this shit is real, because sometimes you can want to play a game, you can love a game, and then you just look at it and you're like, man, do I really feel like dealing with the community?
No, I don't play Dota anymore either. Yeah. I don't want to deal with it. Like, it's
you
sad
love
because
Dota.
I absolutely love Dota.
Yeah.
Like, dude, I would play that game every night if I didn't have to think about dealing with the community. Like, seriously. It's so, that's how bad it is in my brain, and this experience that I mentioned has stuck with me ever since it happened. Like, I've been afraid of playing online games just because of that one experience. It's irrational, but it's just like, I don't even want the hint of that to show up. And anytime people start flaming me, it's like, yes, me jumping down their throat is kind of like being aggressive in the opposite way, but it's just, I don't want to see that happen to somebody else. I don't want to see a game ruined for somebody else because someone is a dick to them.
Yeah, you know? And we can put this in terms. We can put this in terms of like real life situations. I don't flame athletes when they're on the field, court, or anything, because, bro, they have to come out every day, whether they do good or bad. This is their job. Yeah. They have to come out and play. A shitty fan should get thrown out of a stadium.
Throwing bottles at a player, or throwing anything at a player, like
shitty fans nonsense, should get thrown out of a place for saying shitty shit. Like, people don't understand. Like, I remember a fan got thrown out for saying some really crazy shit. It wasn't racist or anything, but it was like really crazy shit to LeBron James, and people were like, well, she paid to be there and everything like that. No, man. Like,
you know, paying to be there doesn't give you a right to assault somebody.
Exactly.
Like, that doesn't give you a right. Yeah, it's not physical assault, but verbal is pretty bad too. Like,
and that's why I have respect for these players. Like, man, they're making millions of dollars, but they have to come out.
They have to put up with. Dude. Yeah. It's, you know, it's dude. I mean, like, soccer is one of those things. Like, I actually love soccer, but the fans in soccer are out of control, man.
Oh my god,
dude! There's so many stories of them like murdering players because they let a goal in or missed a goal or missed a shot or something like that.
That's like, wild.
It's insane. They are so over the top invested in this stuff. It's just like crazy. But with the games, it's like, dude, it's the stakes are even like so minute, even compared to sports, where You're playing a public game of Dota or League. It is the most inconsequential thing on the planet. Nobody cares that you won.
Yeah.
No, you're not going to care that you won.
The thing that I don't like too, especially with games like Dota and League of Legends, people can look at your history and they're like, "Oh, this guy's on a 10-game lose streak. We're gonna lose. GG, guys!" Before the game even starts, like, bro, you don't know. Ridiculous. You don't know what I was going through when those games were coming through. You know,
so you don't know if I was trying different characters. You don't know, like, if I'm dealing with something in real life that's making me not focus.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
You don't know if I'm like, okay, sure, I'm playing poorly. Like, dude, who cares? Like, it's
like it can be plenty of times where. Like, I try to be constructive. I'm like, hey, man, maybe you just need to go back to public games and kind of practice before you come in the rank because this, not the third. This is why I know this. But I try to do it in an flamey, toxic way. But it always comes out as toxic because that's the community.
That's the perception. Yeah. I very rarely try to give people advice in game. Very rarely.
Yeah, nah, I don't.
But, dude, I have had instances, though, where people are playing so poorly that it's like I feel they just keep doing the same thing.
Yeah.
I just feel like you have to say something, and I try to do it in the most constructive, nice way possible. You know, it's like when the team comes out and teammates start flaming other teammates. That's where I just draw a line. I'm like, dude, like you've had, like, the thing I always bring up is I guarantee you, I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're the best Dota player on the effing planet. You've had a game this bad before.
Yeah.
You've had a game this bad before. And did you flame yourself the way you're flaming this guy? I doubt it. Did you accept other people flaming you as bad as you're flaming this guy? I doubt it.
Yeah, and that can cause people to be like very suicidal. They may be on the brink of being suicidal already, and they playing this game to like relieve stress or something like that. And then you just constantly shitting on them, like, "Oh, you're terrible at this game. Go play something else."
I'm not kidding. That experience I had, that stuck with me for weeks afterwards. That's how bad it was.
Yeah,
like I felt legitimately terrible. I am not an emotional dude. Like, I do not release emotion very often, but I legitimately almost cried from that. Like, and that's crazy for me, knowing myself.
Yeah,
dude, I don't.
Yeah,
cry.
me knowing you, like,
I don't cry. Like, I cry once every 5 years. Like, that's legit, and that is how bad that experience was. Dude, it just made me feel like wow. Like, dude. The fact that it snowballed out of... Like, if it was just one guy, that's one thing.
Yeah.
But the fact that he convinced my team to flame me and then convinced the rest of the game to flame me is nuts. 9 people were ganging up on me and making me feel terrible. You know, it's like...
I feel like this conversation needs to be had, but not in the way that I feel like the games media does it. I feel like it just needs to be had in like an honest...
Well, because they go at people and they try to eviscerate them. They put the spotlight on them, and it's... Dude, you know, it's fine. When you have a following and you want to just like put someone on blast, fine, dude. Whatever. It's your prerogative. But to me, it's just like, I think we just need to advocate. Like, I think that's not the right way to go about it. Yeah, I think we need to advocate. We need to be like, replying to that person at all is putting them on blast in some way, but doing it in a spiteful way where you're like, oh, look at this guy. He's such an a-hole.
Yeah.
You know, that's spiteful. Whereas where you reply with your like, look, man, this is not appropriate behavior. I don't care what you think. Like,
and then on the flip side, we need to be held more accountable. Yeah, I've seen people who try to have that honest conversation. Like, man, we need to talk about toxicity in gaming. Well, you know what? I'm not toxic. That's toxic right there in itself. That you're saying, like, I'm not toxic. Yeah, maybe you're not toxic in game, but we still need to have this conversation because I'm pretty sure you experienced it.
We need to be honest sometimes, too. Like, dude, I've been toxic online. I've been toxic in games before.
Me too.
And I don't feel good about it. Sometimes you do need to release... it just comes out, you know. It's like it's just like dude, Dota, League, they're highly competitive, extremely tense games.
Yes.
So I understand where this bile comes out sometimes, but I think what I've always tried to do ever since then is temper myself, notice I'm feeling that way, and notice I'm doing it, and stop. Right?
Yeah.
Stop before it gets out of control. Right. And same thing on Twitter. Right. Like, I've probably said things to people before that I'm not proud of, but it's like recognizing that and not trying to do it in the future, right?
Yeah.
Really being cognizant. Like, dude, on Twitter, I don't tweet very much because I go over my tweets with a fine-tooth comb, making sure I'm saying things in the exact way I want them to be said.
Yeah.
So that I'm not misconstrued, so that I'm not trying to make anyone feel bad or anything like that. I'm not trying to be a jerk or anything like that. I do that with all my tweets, so it's like I don't tweet very much because of that. And I just feel like a lot of people don't do that. They just kind of say what's on their mind. A lot of the time they just type whatever they're thinking, and that is dangerous because, like we were saying earlier, like when I play Dota, I call people out constantly to myself, or if I'm playing with somebody on mic, I'm like, dude, this guy's trash. He's so bad. Oh, this guy's the worst freaking
but you wouldn't put that in chat,
but I'm not going to do it in chat, right? Yeah. Exactly. I'm saying it to my friend. We're having a fun time, whatever. Like, you know, like it's like an internal thought. That's what I'm saying. It's like I'm not going to express that to that person. And if somebody else brings up that they're playing poorly, like, I'm going to defend them because I know I've had bad games before.
So,
you know?
I feel like another conversation about this is people are complaining that games are too easy, and I feel like we participate in that culture of games being quote-unquote too easy. Yeah. Because games were so highly competitive, like Halo 2, Halo 3, Counter-Strike and everything like that, where it was a huge skill gap. And if a newcomer wanted to come into that skill gap, they got eviscerated because they didn't know how to play that game. Like I was talking about, I said on Twitter today, which I feel like we weren't being really honest, and I just thought about it. I don't know why. I think it's because of this topic.
Yeah.
I had the toughest time learning how to raid in WoW. And this is Burning Crusade.
Yeah.
And I can only imagine how hard it was for people to come in, learning their roles in...
That's a good point.
Yeah, learning their roles in vanilla and learning terms like DPS,
I wasn't
healer.
Even thinking outside of MOBAs, yeah.
Yeah, and I can only imagine how that was. For me, I thought I was really knowledgeable in games, but World of Warcraft was my first MMO, and I played a dungeon. I'm like, okay, obviously I'm a tank, so I'm gonna do a little research, and I thought I had my rotations down, and I was in a dungeon. I forgot which dungeon it was, but people were like, "Man, you're trash. You suck. Let's just let this other guy take over." And I felt so bad that
this happened to me in World of Warcraft too.
Yeah, I felt so bad that it took me. I went into the little training dummy, and I researched stuff about literally 5 hours about how to be a good tank and things of that nature. And I feel like I was talking about in terms of Final Fantasy 14, where now when I play that game. Now, I don't think this was out when it first came out, but now they give you terms and they teach you how to play the role. Like, when I was going through the ninja arc and the rogue arc and stuff like that, they're like, this is your role. You're a DPS. It's
every new ability that you get to, they like explain it to you.
Yeah, exactly. And they showed you like, the area, even though I already knew what it was. They're like, this is the aerial circle effect. If you see the circle here, you might want to move out the way because that's going to damage you. And this is what DPS means. This is what healer means. You don't want to do this as a DPS because you have a tank. They explained all this to me if I wanted to learn how to raid and all this stuff like that. And I felt like, it was like a theme park type deal. But like, even with the light party system and everything like that, each one you did, you start with that 4-man raid. And they taught you, like, this is what you guys do. This is how you're supposed to do it. Like, I feel like that's why a lot of people I see on Twitter and just like normal people who play MMOs, they love Final Fantasy for that shit because it taught them terms like DPS, healer, tank. Yeah. This is what you do. This is why you don't go over your DPS numbers for the tank. What's aggro? Like, I didn't know none of these terms when I went into World of Warcraft. I didn't know what aggro was.
Me either, man. And World of Warcraft was my first MMO, so I didn't know any of that stuff.
I mean, but that applies to so many other games where you learn.
It's true, yeah. Every game's got its own terminology.
Yeah,
right?
and but it just stuck out to me when I did World of Warcraft Burning Crusade. I was like, man, that shit was toxic for me.
Well, so World of Warcraft, I'm glad you brought it up because I wasn't even thinking about it, is a fantastic example of what we're talking about and what's wrong with some of this stuff.
Yeah.
I had plenty of experiences in 5-mans where people would perceive that you're not pulling your weight or whatever, or you're bad, or you're not good, or for whatever reason, or you don't have enough gear. There was a toxicity surrounding World of Warcraft that I think was largely went under the radar. And I as much as I blame Blizzard for a lot of current World of Warcraft's failings, I do think the community had a lot to do with the direction that game went in.
Yes.
Where 100%. Vanilla... I'm thinking about vanilla where everything was so new and fresh and everybody was so... There was plenty of toxicity in vanilla, but like the thing is, that was the beginning of the... Do you remember the website Elitist Jerks?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were the ones who would like break down every class, exactly what spec and gear setup was perfect for perfect DPS and rotation you were supposed to use in every situation or whatever. And that whole situation turned the game into one of the most unenjoyable things. It's so unpalatable to me that I am worried from Classic... from the perspective for Classic, that people are going to come in expecting you to do a certain thing, and if you don't do that certain thing, you are a noob.
Yes,
and you need to get out. Like you're not worth our time. And I got really frustrated with World of Warcraft in the raiding element because I remember Burning Crusade as well. That's when I did my hardcore raiding, and I was an officer. I was a rogue, and I was an officer in my guild.
Yeah,
and we had another rogue that joined the guild, and we had I played a specific spec that was not at the time the best spec in terms of damage for raiding, but it worked for me, and I was very good at it. And I had a good rotation, and I really enjoyed the playstyle. And I was pretty consistently one of the top DPS in our guild. Like, pretty much almost all the time, I was the number one.
Yeah.
Even given this spec that was suboptimal or whatever.
Yep.
And I remember this guy came in, and he was like, I'm the officer. I've been in the guild for months, and this is just some new guy. He comes in, and he's like, dude, why are you using this weapon? Like, why are you doing this spec? Why do you use this poison with this weapon? It's not efficient or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, dude,
it works for me.
It works for me. I don't care. Like, do you see your name at the top of the damage meter with your super optimal efficient spec? No, you don't. You see mine. So, and that, from me, is toxic as well, because that's another element to this, is that whole DPS meter thing.
Yeah.
I hate that. I wish that wouldn't be in... I don't want that in MMOs. Like, I hate that stuff. I'm so frustrated with it. I don't want to know how much damage I'm doing relative to anybody else. Like, I do, from a personal standpoint, I want to be able to improve myself, right? But I don't want to be able to... I don't want to be able to call someone else out and be like, hey, your damage is not as high as it should be. Like, you suck. I don't want that. You know, I don't want that in the game. So that dude, like, that was a specific instance where the guy frustrated me coming in and trying to tell me how to play the game. That's the part about it that frustrates me, is that other people try to tell you how to play the game when I'm like, who cares how you play the game? If we're able to finish content and beat bosses, who cares?
Let people experience the game the way they want to experience it.
The problem is the community became obsessed with this whole culture of min-maxing and all this stuff in World of Warcraft, and it created this environment where Blizzard
had to do something
about it, and they started making different levels of raids for people who weren't in that elite tier. You know, the 10-man heroic, you know, and then they had the 10-man regulars, then they had the 10-man heroics, then they had the 25-man regulars, 25-man heroics by Wrath or whatever, and they just continued to go down that path eventually to the point where everything was just easy. And that's the annoying part of it for me, is I do think the community had a lot to do with the issues with that game in the future.
100%. I mean, we can't deny that. As much as me and you complain about games, me, you, and our coworker Jet complain about, you know, games being a little bit too easy and stuff like that.
We set that expectation.
We did, right? And I'm 100% with you on that. I feel like we should look at ourselves in the mirror and be like, why are they doing this? It's not just because they want to make games easier. It's because they probably want to make games accessible.
They're looking at data. Yeah. And to me, for World of Warcraft, like, it's one of the most sad arcs in my gaming history, because I had such a love for it, but by Wrath of the Lich King, I couldn't stand it anymore. Like, I couldn't stand the way people played the game. Like, everyone around me is just so obsessed with the min-maxing and gear score, and what's your gear score, and what specific item you're wearing in this slot. Like, it's just like this shit falls off trees and you can just get it for free. Like, it's not like you... Like, it's so annoying to me that people are like, why do you have that piece of equipment on? Well, it's because I can't get the best piece of equipment, dude. I've gotten unlucky. Like, what do you want from me? You know, it's like I don't have permanent access to the freaking loot pool, you know?
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking. I was like, how can they attack that from
get rid of mods, straight up. Get rid of mods.
get rid of mods?
It's not going to eliminate it entirely, but it's going to get it away from the masses. The fact that mods were in the game created an environment where DPS meters existed, threat meters existed, so it tells everyone, anybody that wants to know, how efficient you are. And then boss mods was the other issue for raids. Boss mods made the game so autopilot, like so easy, where you don't even have to think about anything happening on screen. You just look at the little meters telling you when the next cooldown's coming, and then you do the thing that you're supposed to do when that cooldown happens. You know, like that stuff ruined World of Warcraft, and it got to the point where Blizzard had to design raids around those mods, because it's like the mods would tell players what to do at specific moments. You know, it would flash little things on screen like boss is about to release poisonous gas, get out of this area. You know, it's like it would just tell you what to do, and those were requirements for raid guilds. Even the most casual raid guilds required you to have boss mods. Like, you couldn't raid for the most part without those. They wouldn't even let you in.
And that's what I'm talking about. Like, I remember, like, what was it called, Molten Core, you needed like flame resistant armor.
Yep.
How can you design I want stuff like that in the game.
Yeah.
But how can you design it to where it's not toxic? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't have flame resistant armor, so or maybe I do have flame resistant armor, but it's like the low tier armor.
Yeah.
Like, how can, and I still want to raid with you guys, but unfortunately it's like the low tier. It's still high, item level, but it's the low tier version of the high item level.
So I don't. So that's like gating, right? I don't think that's toxic in and of itself.
Okay.
The community takes that and does what it will with it. Unfortunately, I think it naturally creates a toxic environment by gating, right? If you don't reach the specific, it's like Destiny, right? If you don't reach the specific gear score level, you're not eligible to do this piece of content, right?
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with the flame resistant gear in World of Warcraft, right? If you didn't hit a certain flame resistance threshold, you couldn't go into Molten Core. Like, you would die. So it wasn't gating from the sense of the community was gating. Like, the game, it was a literal, like, mechanical gating.
Okay,
like,
so I guess that's different.
If you walked in there with less fire resistance than necessary, you would get one shot.
Yeah, okay.
And you can't be healed. Like, there's nothing anybody can do for you.
Yeah.
So,
but should the game tell you? Does the game tell you that?
Not
I can't
really.
remember.
No, so that's the problem.
I feel like the game should tell you that.
It doesn't tell you that at all.
Yeah.
It was really not. World of Warcraft was extremely revolutionary for MMOs at the time. Really streamlined a lot of things and did explain a lot of things that weren't obvious to new players. But when you got deep into the game, by the end game, it doesn't tell you anything anymore, and you're expected to figure it out on your own. That's where sites like Elitist Jerks showed up, because the game doesn't explain enough to you.
Yeah.
So the community has to come up with their own resources, right?
Yeah. So
there's kind of a balance there. I don't have a problem with websites like Elitist Jerks existing. They can exist. I just got frustrated because dude, that whole mentality started to permeate every MMO that came out afterwards.
Yeah,
where
it's still prevalent to this day.
It was all about DPS meters. Are you doing this? Are you as efficient as possible? What's your freaking rotation? To the point where Final Fantasy XIV literally tells you what your rotation is supposed to be. Like, the game tells you what rotation you're supposed to do. It's like, I mean, okay. Like, I want to figure it out. Like, at some point, like, I'm a kind of player, like, I just kind of want to figure it out on my own and come to my own conclusion, and that's what I would do with World of Warcraft. And people had a problem with that, though.
Yeah, but me and you are like that. But I have to think about people like who don't want to deal with that toxicity because they run into people like we said, who are just like, they expect you to know this. Like, when I first went into that dungeon, like, bro, that was like, it had the opposite effect on me. But I can think of someone who wasn't as, like, I don't want to say battle hardened, but like who wasn't as hardened as I was as far as video games. Were like, man, I'm going to get better and not be subjected to all this ridicule. Mm-hmm. Someone who's just like, no, I can't do this no more. I'm gonna quit the game, cut my subscription off. Like that. When I went into that dungeon and that dude took over the tank role for me, that was like, I felt like your Shaco game,
completely emasculated.
Yeah, I was just like, I thought I knew what I was doing. Damn, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. And like this is like a 10-man raid too. The entire party was just like, it was hard for me to get loot. Like, I couldn't get loot because it wasn't like an instance-based loot system. It was terrible. When I had to do that raid for about maybe 20-30 minutes or whatever, deal with that shit and then leave out. And I'm just like, all right, I got to get better. But
But that party could have done a better job
of telling me
explaining things to you, right? Like, there's a nice way to do it. Like, look, hey man, like, your gear is not good enough to tank this, so we're not going to kick you out, but we're going to let someone else tank, and we'll try to get through it with you. If we can't, we may have to, like, get someone else as a DPS. You know, it's like, there's a nice way to go about that.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, they can also, that tank could be like, hey dude, like I can tell you're having trouble with certain things, like, here's what I do to do that, right? They could have tried to explain and giving you advice, right?
So, yeah, that was the flip side of that, right? So, after that, the tank actually did. Because he wasn't flaming me. He was just like, I'll take over. I just saw him in chat type that one line. He's like, I'll take over. So, he took over. He did his thing. And after that, I went off into, I forgot the city, because I was on the Blood Elves. I forgot the city. I think it was
Shatrath. It was probably Shatrath.
Yeah, Shatrath. And I went to train, and then he PM'd me and was like, hey, do you want to join my guild? I noticed that you were tanking and you were kind of having trouble, and I can teach you how to do some things with your build. And I'm like, yeah, that's cool. So I did join that guild, and I got better. But, I mean, that one experience changed my whole view of World of Warcraft, because one person can change your experience on that.
100%. It's a social game.
Yeah. But I was on the border, like, about to cancel my subscription. Like, even though I was training, like, I just don't get it. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I don't understand aggro and all this stuff like that. I just don't get it. I don't know what my moves do. And he explained all that to me, even though I was reading these websites and they were using this lingo. It's like, it was just something hard to wrap my mind around. And I'm an experienced gamer, so I can only imagine someone who is interested in this stuff, and they're like, what is aggro?
yeah.
Like, what is leashing? I got a leash? Yeah. Like, what is all this stuff? And I don't know. Especially, and then we can even get back to MOBAs. Like, MOBAs need to do a better job introducing you into the mechanics. They didn't know
awful. They're like, so bad.
Yeah, they're like fighting bots and stuff like that. It's not the same.
It's not the same. Like, dude, we played against bots. I was trying to get you and Jet, right?
Yeah.
When we played against bots, and then we went into that pub game against players, and it was awful. Like, we got obliterated. But you know what was funny? Nobody flamed us. Like, people were super nice to you guys after the fact, and I was so surprised. I was such a breath of fresh air to me. I was like, man, I'm not used to this. Like, I'm expecting these guys to be like, you guys are terrible, uninstall the game. And they were like, well, you guys are new, right? Yeah, we can kind of tell. I was like, man, what's going on here? This is weird. It was
that actually changed my viewpoint on Dota after I played that. I'm like,
well, it wasn't just one guy either. It was like the whole game was like, we can kind of tell you guys were new. It's like, it's cool. It's like, we all start somewhere. You know? It's like, trust me, my first game, there's no way you're going to be able to compete with an experienced player. Like, you just can't. It's just, you don't know anything. Like, so there's definitely a spectrum of experiences. I just think the thing that's common between all of these games is the way we can approach feedback to people. There's a nice way to give feedback, right? There's a nice way to give feedback, and there's a bad way to give feedback. And the nice way is what happened in that Dota game, right? They were recommending videos for you guys to watch and like channels and stuff, and like giving you some tips and stuff like that. And then there's the bad way, which is flaming somebody and telling them they're terrible and whatever. Yeah. You don't know a person's personal circumstances when they're playing the game. You don't know. You don't know if that person's like in the middle, like that person could be in the middle of a divorce. They could be in the middle of a messy breakup. They could have just had somebody in their family die. They could have had a pet die. They could have been in some extreme financial trouble they're trying to escape from, and it's just breaking their focus, so they're playing poorly. You don't know. Or, F it. It could just be a random day of the week and they're fine and they're just having a bad day.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like, who cares? Like, let it go. You have those days too, and I think people need to remember that we all have bad days. And that's not a reason to get mad at somebody.
Exactly.
You know? It's not a reason to be mean to someone in a video game or on the internet in general.
Yeah.
Right?
I feel like you said, we got to reach that. We come to this word again, balance. Like, there's a balance in everything. I feel like on the community side, we definitely need to be way more non-toxic, less toxic, and be helpful, because like I said, one good person can change someone's life as far as not life, but that video game experience. Like I said, for me, for a while in Dota, those people being nice to me changed my viewpoint on Dota. And that guy talking to me about
invited you to your guild, that probably led to tons of different experiences you wouldn't have had otherwise.
Exactly.
Right?
For 2 or 3 years I was playing it more.
Exactly.
But, I also feel like, as far as developers, they need to watch how their game evolves, and they need to be more aware of how that game evolves.
They are responsible for their community.
Yeah.
At a certain point, they aren't, but I think largely they can have an influence over how their community is.
Yeah, they can teach I feel like they can have mechanics. Our systems are more advanced now where we can teach people certain terminology. And like, that's why I was so impressed, because when I played, this was only a couple months ago, and I was playing Final Fantasy 14 by myself.
Yeah. And
I was so impressed by... It was annoying, but I was impressed by how much they were teaching me, and I'm like, I already know this.
For somebody who like knows, it's just so annoying. It's like in your face all the time. But
it was annoying, but then I thought about it outside of
that's why that game's popular.
Yeah,
now.
Exactly. Because my girlfriend was watching. She's like, "What's aggro? What's this? What's that?" And I'm like, "Oh, this is this and that and third." She's like, "Oh, so you're doing this because this is that and third, and you got this party." I'm like, "Exactly." So it teaches people how to play it. And they learn it, and then they can go into other games in that genre, and they already kind of know what to do. But for me, that experience of looking at Final Fantasy outside of my own like elitist brain, I'm like, oh, this is really cool. Like, this can really get people into it. I think MOBA should do this. I think everybody should have this way to where they can introduce people into it, to what the current community is doing, not just a simple click here. This is how you attack. This is how you do this. Like, no, give me terminology, bro. Give me reasons like, you're the ADC, man. You're going to carry the team because they're going to do the most damage. You're going to be doing the most damage. You got to carry your team. You're a tank, man. You got to do this. You're a jungler, man. You got to watch out for this, and that, third. You got to teach people how to play these roles, because honestly, it's not, I'm 100% honest. It's great that the community does give you tutorials and things of that nature. You got YouTube videos and stuff like that, but it shouldn't be totally up to the community. Developers should be way ahead of this.
Yes, I agree. No, letting your community do all the work for you is, I don't want to say lazy, but it's like, I mean, you can do something. You know, I don't expect you to explain every single mechanic, right?
Yeah.
The game, I mean, Dota's a complicated game. You can't explain every single
100%.
thing, right? Every character's got its own mechanics, but you can explain the little basic things, and the game doesn't tell you any of that, really.
It doesn't.
The initial tutorial is pathetic. It's like you're like in a one-lane 1v1 against a bot. It's terrible.
Fucking League does the same thing.
Dude, it doesn't tell you anything about how to play the game. And then you play against bots, and it's like, okay, you can learn the basics of how to control your character and what your abilities do and what other characters' abilities do. But, dude, it doesn't tell you the flow of the game. Yeah. It doesn't show you how players are going to play.
Exactly.
It doesn't really tell you, like, what strategy is. It doesn't tell you any of that. So it's like, I don't know. And I think in general, for me, like, just in terms of internet communication in general, I think people... all of us can do a better job of not jumping to the quick, mean comment, right? Like, instead of being... like, I know we were talking about earlier with, like, Sonic or whatever and Game of Thrones, how people were saying, if you don't have anything positive to say, don't say anything. I understand where that is coming from, as much as I think it's an annoying comment.
Yeah.
I think it's really easy for people to go online and be like, that was trash, right? Or that episode was terrible, or blah, blah, blah. Like... for me, I try not to say that unless I'm actually going to lay out reasoning for it. You know, I try to be. That's why I don't say much, because it's like it's hard to really put that into Twitter form.
Yeah,
like 280 characters. So I don't really talk too much online about what I think of stuff. And I think in general, with other conversations like political or social, whatever conversations we're having, I think people are too quick to jump to name calling and being negative towards somebody who has a different opinion from you. And I just don't like that is its own form of toxicity that I think is similar to all this as well.
Yeah.
And I just think we can all be better about that. I can be better.
Can.
We all can. Like, it's like I'm not immune to it either. I've done it in the past as well. So I think it's just being more thoughtful. Don't just poop out whatever comes into your brain onto Twitter. It's like that's gonna get you in trouble.
I mean,
trust me.
The thing about that Sonic thing, as far as toxicity, I feel like the reason why this was a little bit different was because the internet offered alternatives. They're like, there
was a lot of constructive feedback.
Yeah, and they show like what you can do in a realistic setting with the current models that we do have and things of that nature. it's just a way to teach people, like, this is not what I want, or this is not what you should be doing, bro. Mm-hmm. Or it's just a way to teach people how to do things without being toxic. And I mean, you can put that in all aspects of life. If we're playing tennis, like, hey, how about you shouldn't be doing this with your stroke? Maybe you should be doing this with your.
Yeah, it's actually it's a funny example because I used to play tennis all the time, and I was one of the better people of my friend group, and I would try to give them ideas like, look, like this is kind of what I do. Like, this might not work for you, but this is kind of something maybe you should try. Something that I can see with your stroke, like you're hitting the ball into the same part of the court all the time, and it's making you really easy to hit against. Like, move the ball around, move your opponent around, or things like that. So I know it's like I know what you mean. Like there's just. I think we should jump to being constructive more than just being like trying to tear each other down.
Yeah, I think that's just the competitiveness of, I guess, humans, but from a perspective of, like, I honestly don't see it that much from, well, maybe in like Korea they're really competitive, but like, especially just coming from our perspective as Americans, we are competitive people by nature. Like, that's how we are. That's how we're bred. I feel like that kind of needs to change. Like, we can be competitive, but be like, hey, good game, bro. Maybe you should work on this. This is how I was predicting you move to the left. I saw that you do this with your arm all the time, so I'm going to move that way. Yeah. Like, I don't know. It's just a better way to do stuff, like you said.
I agree. We can only do it within our own sphere, man. Like, we'll do it a little at a time and get better. Try to get better about it. So I think that is going to be it for this week. If you liked this episode, please like the episode wherever you are listening to it. If you would also review the episode and subscribe to the show, we would really appreciate it. We'd also appreciate if you shared it with your friends. We would like to grow the audience and have some conversations with folks that are listening. That would be great. If you want to talk to any of us on Twitter, Montrell is at iTrap4 the Hokage. That is the number 4, not the word. I am at ThunderNut01. The podcast is at The Player's Take. If you'd like to send us questions, you can send them to theplayerstake01@gmail.com. Next week, I'm sure we will be talking about the State of Play reveal and whatever else happens. That's going to be it for this week, guys. We hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you on the next one. All right, bye, guys.